Let's start with what happened yesterday in Parliament with the SAPS top leadership. The head of HR, listen to this. The head of HR in the SAPS appeared before the Portfolio Committee on Police, together with other leaders of the SAPS, and she was asked tough questions about President Cyril Ramaphosa's head of security, Wally Ruode, and his involvement in the off-the-books Phala Phala investigation. Now remember, there are two independent institutions that have found that the head of security, Wally Ruode, acted improperly. Because when that money was stolen at Phala Phala, he didn't go and open a case as required by the law. He decided to start his own investigation. And who knows what else they did during that illegal investigation. I mean, he was traveling, even leaving the country, calling on the people who are now accused of stealing the money, interrogating them. So the public protector investigated. Fine, she cleared the president. But the public protector came out and said there are serious concerns around the president's head of security, Wally Ruode. The public protector said Wally Ruode abused his position by launching this illegal investigation. And he abused police resources because he was using, of course, police resources to continue with that investigation. So after millions were stolen from the president's couch in Phala Phala, his head of security, because the president, remember, said, I told my head of security, and he didn't take it up with the police. He took matters into his own hands. Pack that. Another independent institution, IPID, went and investigated Phala Phala. They've come out and said something wrong happened here with how Wally Ruode conducted himself as an officer. So IPID also believes that Wally Ruode acted improper when handling the theft at Phala Phala. And yet, despite the two independent investigations finding against the president's head of security, he is still in charge. The SAPS, all they could say yesterday in Parliament was, we had a disciplinary hearing. And that disciplinary hearing cleared Wally Ruode of any wrongdoing. So he's back at work. He was cleared. And there is no rational explanation being given. In essence, what I'm trying to say to you is we're dealing with a situation now where the SAPS has disregarded both the public protector's findings and IPID's findings against the president's head of security, Wally Ruode. Here's what the HR head of the SAPS told Parliament yesterday about this.
Then the next slide, Chairperson, will talk to the sequence of events. If you can move straight to the sequence of events relating to General Ruode. The then Divisional Commissioner of PSS, Chairperson, appointed an investigating officer, as I've indicated, to conduct an investigation against General Ruode on a letter dated the 5th of September 2022. Then the Public Protector's report into the allegations of improper conduct against member of SAPS, dated the 30th of June 2023, was received, and the letter was acknowledged and responded to on the 25th of August 2023. The IO finalized the investigation chair on the 6th of July 2023 and recommended that the disciplinary steps against General Ruode be instituted. And once again, we received an IPID recommendation with that reference number. And IPID also made a recommendation that steps must be initiated against General Ruode as well as Sergeant Rehoto. And this report was received on the 3rd of October 2023. A letter was submitted to the Executive Director, Chair, informing IPID that we have initiated the disciplinary proceedings. And these proceedings was already initiated or implemented prior to the receipt of the IPID recommendation. Upon finalization of the investigation, which recommended steps to be taken against General Ruode, the supervisor appointed a designated functionary on the 23rd of October 2023 to conduct an expeditious process in terms of Regulation 9.1 of the SAPS Discipline Regulations of 2016. On the 14th of February 2024, Regulation 9 functionary finalized the expeditious process and found Major General Rode not guilty on all charges.
Right? And they didn't even go further to explain how the disciplinary hearing ended up finding Wally Rode not guilty. I mean, also, Wally Rode is, of course, a member of the SAPS. So it's his bosses now who are taking him through a DC. But there are these two independent institutions that said something is wrong here. So the committee wasn't satisfied with this response. So they have asked the SAPS leadership to come to Parliament physically and explain why they cleared Wally Rode despite the two independent reports finding against him. And I'd like to know what you think about how the SAPS has handled this matter. Why do you think so many people are being protected from accountability in this matter? I mean, even the head of security, the same one that investigation found he acted improperly, he still gets protected. And well, I guess maybe because he knows too much, right? So if you let him be the fall guy, is he going to be okay with that? And if he's not okay with that, I mean, what else is he going to reveal? I don't know. I'm just trying to make sense of why, when there are independent institutions that agree that this man abused state resources, acted improperly in how he handled the Pala matter, and yet his own bosses at the SAPS said, go back to work. Nothing wrong here. What do you think is at play here? And what do you make of how Wally Rode and the SAPS have handled this matter of Wally Rode? 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. Another issue I want to raise with you on the open line is this fight currently underway between the Communications Minister Solly Malatsi and ICASA. So just to give you a bit of background and context, the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa, that's ICASA, right? It doesn't want to recognize an alternative to the rule requiring communications license operators to be 30% owned by historically disadvantaged groups without an amendment to the Electronic Communications Act. If they do that, then that would pave the way for Elon Musk's company, Starlink, to operate in South Africa, because they don't want to give away 30% ownership as per our regulations when it comes to these multinational companies. So the communications minister, you'll remember in December, issued a directive to ICASA, and he was telling them, please consider aligning the 30% ownership rule with the ICT sector codes that are issued in terms of BBBEE Act. And that code recognizes equity equivalence programs, which basically allows multinational companies that have not entered into ownership agreements in the countries where they operate to make financial contributions to transformation instead of meeting ownership targets, right? So companies, instead of giving up 30% ownership of their companies, they can just invest maybe in skills transfer, like development programs. So the minister wants this to be the case with the ICT sector. But ICASA says, yo, there's nothing we can do. Whatever you want us to do actually requires legislative changes. So you need to go and amend the current Electronics Communications Act. So the minister has now decided to go ahead with legislative amendments that are going to enable equity equivalence investment programs to complement ownership requirements in telecommunications. I mean, I don't see how he's going to get support in Parliament because the ANC has already opposed the plan. And the ANC has consistently said, we can't be changing our laws to accommodate any single company like Starlink. Because whether this is an intention or not by the minister, this change that he's pushing for is going to benefit Elon Musk's company. Because it's his company that's against the 30% ownership regulations. It's his company that wants equity equivalence. So whether that's an intention by Solly Malatsi or not, it is definitely going to benefit Elon Musk. So I want to know from you, what do you think Solly Malatsi is doing here? Do you think he's bidding for Elon Musk as accused by the ANC? I mean, he's denied it when I interviewed him on the show. In fact, this is what he said when I asked him about this tension between ICASA and also his department, and also the concerns that exist around Elon Musk and his disinformation campaign and what he would do with the infrastructure should he come into South Africa. What guarantee do you have this man is not one to play politics with the infrastructure that would be here? I mean, look at how unhinged he is on Twitter through this disinformation campaign. So what stops him from interfering in other ways? Here's how the minister responded to that. This was our interaction when he came on the show a few weeks ago. Yeah, which honestly I think that just makes sense, because our triple BEE legislation there used to be uniformity around that.
Across the board, yeah.
But I do think that we do need to ask serious questions about why it's happening now. And you've already clarified that you said this a year ago already. You wanted, but we have to ask questions, especially because the man who's involved here is unhinged.
Absolutely.
He peddles disinformation, and it really worries me. I mean, the other day I said, if this man, Elon Musk, can use his own platform, Twitter, for disinformation campaigns, what else can he do with the companies that he owns when he operates in South Africa? Like, does that concern you at all? Because I don't think that we are politicizing it. I think the man has been clear. He's using his own Twitter company to spread disinformation about South Africa. What more when he is involved in the telecommunications infrastructure? What can he use that for?
And I think for me, the most important part is that South Africa's capacity to enforce and uphold our laws is intact, whether it's the cybersecurity laws, whether it's the interventions about fighting misinformation and disinformation. And the other thing, Clement, that also comforts me is the fact that, whenever a license is issued, it is not issued without its own conditions to be upheld at all times, right? And a deviation or any violation of those conditions under which a telecommunications license was issued has penalties linked to it that can be invoked at any time. And that's where the role of, one, the regulator becomes very important, and two, our law enforcement agencies becomes very instrumental. Because I don't think we live in a risk-free world, at all times, whether it is with, satellite solutions or any other solution. But the most important thing is, do we have, one, the law enforcement capacity and the intelligence capacity to respond appropriately should such violations occur?
Do you think we need to strengthen our regulations, though? Because, with intelligence and law enforcement, I don't even have much confidence knowing what we know as South Africans.
Yeah.
What about the regulations? Would you push for regulations that would ensure that those loopholes are closed? Because, across the world, you see tech giants and billionaire entrepreneurs are no longer just market players. They are geopolitical actors too. And whatever infrastructure they have, investments they have, they will use those to somehow contribute towards this changing geopolitical world. So do you think there's a need for stringent regulations that would ensure that even an Elon Musk, who maybe one day operates here, is never going to use that as a political tool?
Yeah, look, I think more than stringent is we constantly have to be vigilant, right? Because, living in the type of world that we are living in, I think there's always opportunistic and nefarious elements that will try to use their influence in different ways, either through, their commercial vehicles or either through the proximity to power to advance certain interests. So I don't think, right, we're sitting here, I could say that, at all times, our capacity from enforcement, from regulations, are a panacea to even unforeseen risk that may emerge, because technology is evolving all the time, right? And I think what we have a responsibility to is to capacitate ourselves to be able to respond quickly to risks if they emerge, and should they emerge, how we can quickly mitigate those from causing damage.
So that's the communications minister, Solly Malatsi, when he was on the show a few weeks ago. So what do you think? There's no question about, so what we're debating here is not whether or not Elon Musk's company would make a huge difference, right, in our mobile network, especially in rural communities, right? Connectivity in rural areas is still problematic. And Starlink would make a huge, huge contribution and impact in those communities. That's not a debate. What I'm asking is, how cautious do we need to be? Because the minister is going ahead with amending these rules to allow companies like Starlink to enter South Africa without sharing ownership. right? So they will contribute through equity equivalence. But I'm saying we are seeing billionaires, tech billionaires, entrepreneurs that are not, they're not just market players. They're geopolitical actors too. I mean, their entry, did you see Elon Musk is in China now in Beijing with President Trump for that state visit? So these tech billionaires, their entry into these strategic sectors, such as telecommunication, infrastructure, such as energy, that raises difficult questions about national sovereignty and policy autonomy. And I'm saying we need to be very cautious of that. It would be naive of us to think, oh, they just want to come and help. Look at what they've done across the world. Look at what they've done, even on social media. Hence, I asked if Elon Musk can use his platform that he owns on Twitter for disinformation, what else can he do with companies he owns when or if they operate in South Africa? Let me know your thoughts on 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 0727021702. At 10 o'clock, we're going to do our hanging out feature. I'm looking forward today to hanging out with our colleague Aubrey Masango between 10 and 11 o'clock. And then at 11, we do our Thursday dialogue. Today, we're going to be asking whether we treat DA scandals differently to ANC ones. I'll tell you why we're asking this question at 11 o'clock. That's the show coming up over the next 3 hours.
Clement Manyathela, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
Clement, this is Sim. I don't know if you haven't realized that SAPS does cover ups for its employees. If you remember those bodyguards of Mashatile who was assaulted tourists, the SAPS cleared them. They said that they didn't find any criminality on their behalf. 2024, there was a policewoman in Tsakani who assaulted a man at a police station. She was captured on camera. SAPS cleared her. They said she did nothing wrong. I mean, the evidence is there. She was assaulting that man, but no, they said she did nothing wrong. Again, in 2024, there was another policewoman who assaulted a man here in Joburg. She was captured on camera. SAPS said no, she did nothing wrong. Another incident of a policewoman assaulting a man who was in police custody. It was captured on camera. All of this, I can send you those videos of those policewomen. The SAPS cleared her again. She did nothing wrong. SAPS does cover ups for its employees. That's how it works.
Good morning, Clement. Morning 702. Khotso from Naledi. Clement, this situation of Wally Road in the Palapala saga must just be referred to the Mahlanga Commission. That's it. Because, I mean, really, it requires a commission, that situation, on its own. I don't think that impeachment will ever be enough. I don't think so, because really a proper investigation must be done as to even how much are the dollars that are there in the president's house. It must be found out. It must be found out. And people must be arrested. I mean, seriously, especially the police. How do they clear him after doing all this? Unexplainable. Corruption.
Yeah, it's actually it's quite wild. But I guess it explains why the SAPS is in a crisis that it is. I mean, how many of the top cops are currently in the courts? How many of the top cops are suspended? It's a mess in the SAPS. And maybe what we're seeing, even with how they handle matters about Wally Road, it just explains how deeper the crisis is. How do you have two independent institutions finding against this man that he abused resources? He did an off-the-books investigation without reporting the matter. And you disregard those findings and you find, he's done nothing wrong. And you're right, this is not the first case. Paul Mashatile's security personnel, remember what happened with them? They were going through the courts, but when you go to the SAPS, well, just let them go off the hook. We're in trouble. Let's go to more of your WhatsApps regarding Solimalatsi and ICASA and Starlink.
Good morning, 702 and listeners. I'd like to comment on the plan with Elon Musk and the change that they are asking. He has offered, as part of his corporate social responsibility, the part where he gives back to the community, to give access to hundreds of rural schools so they have internet accessibility, which is something they don't have, at no cost to our government. We need to look at improving our education so that we can alleviate poverty and create jobs. And what he's offering is a huge step in the right direction for students who don't have access to this kind of connectivity. Surely we must be looking at the bigger picture. As long as he's doing that, why are we prohibiting him from coming into the country? It is good for us in the long term. I'm afraid some of the decisions this government make are very short-sighted, selfish, and do not look to the future of South Africa. Thank you.
Morning, Clement. Morning, 702. I think when it comes to the issue of Elon Musk, ICASA, and Starlink, I think that is very straightforward and simple. Soli Malati is trying to buy friendship or build a relationship at the expenses of South Africa and South Africans. So if Elon Musk is not happy with the law, he's free to go anywhere, not in South Africa. And as far as I'm concerned, X must also be cancelled in South Africa. Pretoria.
Aibo, cancelled? Why? I mean, if we believe in freedom of speech, why would you want to take away that platform that really allows people that freedom of speech? The fact that the owner of that platform somehow misuses that platform to share and spread disinformation doesn't necessarily mean that's what everybody else on that platform does. So I'm not sure about that part. But after the headlines, we are going to go to more of your calls and WhatsApps. It's 9:31. Sfiso, hi.
Thanks, Clements. Good morning. Hawks officer Joseph Sibola will be taking the witness stand at the Madlanga Commission today. His testimony is expected to focus on the botched July 2021 drug bust in the south of Johannesburg. Police confiscated 751 kilograms of cocaine from a truck carrying some car parts, but the operation has been marred by allegations of police members who tried to steal the drugs. Public Works Minister Dean McPherson will receive a reprimand from the National Speaker and will have to apologize to Action SA's supporters for calling them amapara, a term used to describe drug addicts or people involved in societal ills. Parliament's Ethics Committee has sustained the complaint from the party, finding that the term, as directed towards supporters outside the Pietermaritzburg High Court last year, was derogatory and defamatory. The committee has not accepted McPherson's explanation that he was referring to a particular incident of an intoxicated individual who allegedly formed parts of the Action SA protest. And a Tunisian appeals court has upheld a 3.5-year prison sentence of two prominent journalists jailed for alleged financial crimes. They were sentenced in January for money laundering and tax evasion, accusations that they deny. Since President Kais Saied staged a sweeping power grab in 2021, rights groups have denounced a regression in freedoms in Tunisia. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
In the traffic in Centurion, there's been an accident at the Flying Saucer interchange and it is causing slight delays if you're coming from the R21 North onto the N1 North. In Amalgam, there's slow-moving traffic at Main Reef Road and Church Street, and it is due to faulty traffic lights, as well as in Edenvale at the N3 and Modderfontein. In the capital city, traffic lights are also out in Gasfontein at the N1 in Gasfontein, as well as at Paul Kruger and Rachel de Beer in Pretoria North. If you come across any other traffic on your side, please do send us a WhatsApp voice note on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
You know, about 2 days or so ago, there was a major drug bust here in Swartruchend in the northwest, where a drug lab, the policemen with the authorities managed to dismantle a major drug lab. But what is concerning is that 11 people were arrested, 4 of them being Mexicans. Are these cartels looking at South Africa as a so-called safe haven to manufacture these goods?
The acting Northwest Police Commissioner Rhino Naidu is saying that police raided the farm after community members alerted them to strange smells coming from the property.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
Mzansi, the excitement is building. The 130th running of the Hollywood Bets Durban July takes place on Saturday, 4 July. This year's theme, Country Allure, draws from the richness of our land, a celebration of heritage, freedom and style, inspired by our beautiful countryside. It's more than a race. It's where champions are made, stories are written, and greatness is unleashed. World-class horse racing, bold fashion, music, culture, and a day of endless excitement at Hollywood Bets Greyville Racecourse. Get your tickets now at Ticket Pro and release your glamour at the Hollywood Bets Durban July, Africa's greatest horse racing and social event.
Not every change feels like a choice. Some arrive as disruption. Shift Happens with Richard Sutton is a podcast about those moments where life moves first and you have to catch up. And now you can catch it all. Shift Happens with Richard Sutton. Coming soon on PrimeMediaPlus.com, the Prime Media Plus app, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Powered by First Light. Therapeutics for the modern mind.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
25 minutes before 10 o'clock. It's a 702 open line. 2 issues raised this morning on the open line. One, the Phala matter and how the SAPS has dealt with the head of security for President Cyril Ramaphosa, Wally Rode. The public protector and IPID both independently found that he abused state resources. He acted improperly by launching that off-the-books investigation. And yet, the SAPS somehow still said, well, he's cleared of any wrongdoing. Parliament is not satisfied with this, so they've asked the HR head and other leaders of the SAPS to come and account. So they will be coming to Parliament, to the Portfolio Committee on Police. And then I'm also asking you about Starlink and the tension between ICASA and the Minister of Communications, Solly Malatsi. Equity, equivalence, that's really what is contentious here, because Solly Malatsi says we need to align regulations within the ICT sector to be in line with the BBBEE code, which allows for equity equivalence. So we need to allow multinational companies in the telecommunication sector who want to invest in South Africa to have that option of investing in skills development programs, as opposed to giving away 30% of their ownership, which is exactly what Elon Musk wants. And of course, that Starlink would make a huge, much-needed impact, especially in the rural areas. But the question is, how cautious do we need to be around issues of security, given how this man has behaved on social media, but also through political channels like the U.S. President's office in trying to spread disinformation about South Africa. 011-883-0702. Let's start with your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702.
Good morning, Clement. Sulimala Chichari Jianga's job. You can't tell us that. I mean, come on. We've always seen government being taken to court over a license that they issued with conditions. And those conditions were then set aside to be unconstitutional. So no, Solimala just trying to take a gamble because he's basically bidding for Elon Musk. That's what he's doing. He's bidding for Elon Musk, for someone who's anti-South African. When are we going to stand take a stand like the USA? Look at Trump. You stand against the USA, you're not welcome in the USA. So let's do the same. Why must we be the sweethearts trying to even please people who have got no good interest at heart for South Africa? He's going to use that Starlink to basically push propaganda even worse against South Africa.
Tlemza. Solimala clearly has a mandate. And now we can see the mandate. The way he's pushing this thing, we can see. Jay somehow has a deal with Elon. They're trying to push that thing. We don't want that thing. We don't trust the owner. If a man is publicly spreading misinformation through his platforms, imagine what he can do when he has his network all over the country. No. As much as we need that technology, not from Elon, I'm sorry. Bomala must go relax. Must relax. Rather focus on empowering our current mobile networks. Focus on them. Leave Elon's thing alone.
But does Solimalati not have a point in that there are conditions? Every time there's a license that's issued, there are conditions that you must comply with, even as a multinational company. And of course, issues of security come in there. But Solimalati also said he is quite confident in our security and intelligence institutions, which is quite funny, but really not, because it's quite crazy that our SAPS is in a state that it is. It's quite crazy that even our intelligence is in a state that it is. But for Solimalati to also place his confidence in those institutions, well, good luck to him. John, you were calling us from Fourways. What are your thoughts? Good morning.
I just think that we need to be pragmatic as a country. Mm-hmm. There's far more to gain by getting Starlink, not only in our rural areas, but even in our cities. I mean, our mobile system network communication, it's terrible. I mean, even in the cities, you lose signal, and it's very difficult to do business, especially for those that are dependent on their mobile, their phone devices to do business. Mm. So I think that the security issue, it's really overplayed. I mean, I don't think that countries in Africa, such as Zimbabwe now, Lesotho, Swaziland, Rwanda, and so forth, that they've got Starlink are less concerned about security than what we are. In fact, I would argue to say that the biggest threat to our security, it's ourselves. It's our own police people, mm-hmm. As you can see on the Madlanga Commission, the politician, our indecisive president, and all these people that are in cabinet and our parliament that are really involved in criminal activities. I mean, that is really the biggest threat. In any event, Clement, I mean, if you look at how our police has been hollowed out, our defense has been hollowed out, our intelligence service has been hollowed out, and our borders are porous, and now we've got Mexicans and all these other people making drugs within our country, you can hardly blame outsiders. So I think we need to be pragmatic and really look at what is in the best interest of our people. In any event, even if this BE thing is coming, I can bet you the beneficiary is not going to be ordinary people, young people from Soweto. Mm. It's going to be the politically connected and their families. Mm. So I think
I wanted to agree in that in the past, I mean, the BEE has not only benefited the politically connected, but in the past we've seen that there are people, in fact, the ANC has used triple BEE to try and benefit its comrades. That has been there, but that doesn't mean that there are no genuine black people that have benefited through that process. Here's a question quickly though, John. Elon Musk has called for South Africa to be sanctioned. So you call for a country to be sanctioned, but you still want to invest in that country. Help me understand that.
I thought that the president said he has got a direct line to Elon Musk. A lot of these things, it's emotions, and I don't think Elon Musk it's averse to coming and talk to our president or even Solimalati or whoever is involved in all of this to try and tone it down. I mean, in all honesty, because we're not an island. We have to compete, and unfortunately, if we keep on looking at things in a narrow way, we disadvantage ourselves, our economy, and our own people. Imagine what this would do to schools, Clement. I went to a rural school in Venda. I mean, imagine what this would do. Suddenly, it would unleash, the talent that I believe our youth has.
That's true.
That is really untapped. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree
Thank
with
you,
you, John. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your contribution.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you, my brother.
John, who's calling us from Fourways. Let's go to Kelvin, who is in Joburg. Kelvin, what are your thoughts? Hi.
Yes, good morning, Clement. Thank you for the opportunity. I just want to comment about Wally Ruder. Within the organization, a person like Wally Ruder, there comes a stage where he's reporting directly to the president, remember. So he becomes an entity to himself. He reports to no one except to Cyril. So even with the matter with the Pala, I mean, obviously he could not mandate himself. He was mandated by somebody to behave the way and conduct his duties the way that he has done. Remember that plane that was held over in Poland for carrying sensitive equipment, jamming equipment on their way to Russia. I think Cyril was also on the plane, and then he was removed and allowed to fly through. Wally Ruder was also implicated there, and he was never held accountable.
What was he implicated in there?
He is the one that's responsible for the president's movements, even for the plane and the loading of the equipment and whatever.
But what did he do wrong, Kelvin?
You cannot transport that kind of equipment, listed equipment over the borders without permissions and certificates. That equipment is sensitive. They're used for jamming communication. Obviously, it's a sensitive equipment. It's infringing on rights of people.
Okay, Kelvin.
And the other thing that I wanted to speak about, I mean, look at this recent case with General Ushaba, Dineo Mukweli, that was brought to the public sphere. And they were, all over the newspapers. What happened to that case? The police just sweeps it under the carpet. Those people have allowed to be returned to work, although that is against what the court ruling was. But nothing happens from there. These things are just publicized to us like the police are acting against criminality within the organization. But honestly speaking, these members are continuing to conduct themselves the way they were doing because it benefits some other higher
And
power.
they know they're going to be protected. I mean, someone just asked me on Twitter, Clement, what's the update on Tiger? Remember Tiger? That person who, what do you call him? Like the guy who's involved in illegal mining in the Northwest. Remember is it Steelfontein? This is a kingpin. That's how the police referred to him, as a kingpin in illegal mining. Police officers helped him to escape. Many other illegal miners in Steelfontein who were refusing to come out got arrested. He was taken into a vehicle and they helped him escape. How do you explain that? And watch, those officers who helped him escape are probably going to have their jobs back, because Tiger is probably sitting somewhere on a beach having a beautiful, wonderful cocktail, because he was assisted by the SAPS. And do you think really like low-ranking SAPS officials just made that call? I'm sorry, I don't believe that. There's someone surely who is so higher up who issued an instruction. Because how does a low-ranking SAPS member take such a huge risk that potentially is going to destroy their career? This man, Tiger, was very much connected. So sad that our very police officers who were gunning for him because they said he's the kingpin somehow let him go and escape. And that is the SAPS we're talking about. So when you see instances where they're busy protecting Wally Ruder, that shouldn't really surprise us, I guess. It's 12 minutes before 10.
702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa.
My show is about getting you informed by the time you get to the office, your place of business, or wherever you need to go. Hopefully you have a fairly good idea what's happening in Johannesburg, in Gauteng, and around the world. We want you to be part of those water cooler conversations, and you will be part of those conversations because you'll be a better informed citizen. What I like about the 702 family and 702 land is the ecosystem system that we have built, the community. It's all about connection because we may be different, but ultimately the people you talk to and the people you hear are facing issues just like you.
702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa, weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m.
Evolution doesn't wait. Introducing the Changan Uni S. Unexpected, unmistakable, uncompromising. Engineered to a higher standard, unlike anything in its class. Unsurprising really from China's oldest automaker. Trusted by 30 million drivers worldwide. Visit chang'anmotors.co.za for more. The Changan Uni S.
Changan, driven to evolve.
Sometimes all it takes to reshape the world and deliver better outcomes is a little unconventional thinking. Black Sheep Thinking, powered by Camissa Asset Management.
Healthcare innovation. Millions in India were going blind from treatable cataracts. Surgery existed, but was unaffordable for most. Well, one doctor redesigned eye surgery like an assembly line. Extreme efficiency, cross-subsidized pricing and scale without compromising quality. This was Dr. Govin Ndapa Venkataswamy, who changed how cataracts were treated in India. It became the largest provider of eye surgeries in the world. Major surgery treated for patients for free or at a very low cost, and the outcomes were equal to the very best Western hospitals.
Black Sheep Thinking, every Tuesday on 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa, powered by Camissa Asset Management. Invest different. Camissa Asset Management is a licensed FSP on 702.
Your voice,
Your station.
your open line
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
on 702.
10 minutes before 10 o'clock. Back to your calls. Mpo in Newlands. Good morning.
Good morning, Clement. How are you?
I'm all right, man. Go ahead.
Clement, so Elon Musk, we all need to understand we are the connection point to Africa. He needs South Africa. We don't need him. In the sense of Clement, the biggest data centers where the internet cables run from Cape Town and KwaZulu-Natal all come from here. That's how you get connectivity. So hence why he wants to come here. He needs to come here for him to expand in Africa. That's why there is a new data center that's going to be built in Cape Town, and Cape Town is worried about its electricity supply. He needs us more than we need him. When has he ever cared about young black kids in Africa when he was calling us an a-hole country, him and his friend? All of a sudden, he now says he wants to come here, and people say, no, it's just all about emotions. When you're an adult in business, emotions are not involved. You behave as such.
I mean, and he hasn't behaved really as an adult in business. Honestly.
Exactly. Clement, China has over 1 billion people, but Starlink is not allowed there. Why isn't he forcing to be
Well,
there?
he's in
Why
Beijing right now with Donald Trump. Maybe that's what he's going to negotiate.
Let's see if China's going to let him in. Let's see if China's going to let him in, because we can't act like, oh no, we need internet connectivity. Clement, I'm from the rural areas. We have internet connectivity. Yes, we might need help with like laptops and things like that, but we have internet access. Nowhere in this country do we not have internet access. Everywhere where I drive around the country, we have internet access everywhere. So he mustn't act like he's doing us a favor.
No, look, Mpo, someone actually just sent me a tweet, Mpo, who says, Clement, Elon Musk switched off his satellite service for Ukraine in the middle of a war when Trump took over. In fact, and I quickly checked on Reuters, and Reuters, quite a reputable news agency, reported about Musk ordering the shutdown of Starlink satellite service as Ukraine was busy trying to fight Russia in that war. So there's an example. This is a man who can just take a call and make an order. Just so, whether he wants to put political pressure or he wants to influence something politically, that is a possibility. How do we counter that? Is there a plan to counter that? Because it's naive of us to just think about the benefits of what his company brings in South Africa without thinking about the consequences that come with our politics and security down the line. Imagine if Julius Malema gets elected president. Elon doesn't want Julius Malema. Whether that is through a democratic process in South Africa or not, do you think that's someone who's just going to accept it? And what do you think then he's going to do within his powers, within the infrastructure he has in South Africa, to try and express his unhappiness and interfere in any way? I'm saying, look at what he's doing already through a platform he owns, Twitter. Look at the lies that he spreads about this country, pushing for sanctions, lying that people are being killed here every single day. Look at what even his dad is doing. And I don't want to judge him based on what his dad does, but sometimes there's an alignment there in thought. And you want to give that person that level of power? Tiso in Cape Town, hi.
Clement, I'm saying that the benefits of Starlink are not even enough for us to bend over. I would like to agree with what Mpo said there, that in rural areas, we actually do have connectivity. In some rural areas, like where I'm from, we have 5G, Clement. A lot of rural areas, there's LTE, which is the equivalent of 4G. So I hear a lot of people saying that the rural areas would benefit, and a lot of people that are saying that are not even from rural areas. And now all of a sudden they care about poor people. You know, when people want to benefit themselves, all of a sudden they invoke poor people that Elon doesn't even care about poor people. He doesn't even care about black people, let alone black poor people. So I'm saying that it's not even enough for us to amend to try and accommodate him, because the benefit that Starlink would bring to South Africa, Clement, it's not even that great, because the infrastructure in South Africa actually is good. If you go to a lot of rural areas, you find 5G, Clement. And 5G speed, it's actually higher than what Starlink would give you in those places. Yes, if you go to remote areas like farms and all those kind of isolated areas, that's where Starlink would actually benefit a lot of those people. Those are not the people that Elon is targeting, by the way. He wants the people in the cities because it's about control. So I don't think it's enough for us to try and amend things to try and accommodate him, honestly. Thank you.
The communications minister is going ahead with that amendment. Tiso in Cape Town, thank you.
Morning, Clement. You know, it's easy for the ministers just to come on your platform and talking about regulations and monitoring regulations, you know, and all the shebang that actually comes with. But they fail just to monitor one simple thing: community radio stations that are underperforming when it comes to regulations. So how are they going to manage a company that is not even based in South Africa when they're failing just to manage community radio stations? Come on. We're not kids here.
Clement, national sovereignty, big tech companies, billionaires. I think it's an absolute red herring, this thing about sovereignty, the concern. It's business. It's simple. They want to come in. They want to do business. But this is now one of those things again. And it's a shining example of how BEE is busy holding our country back. We can't get Starlink. Can't get the connectivity. Those children in the Eastern Cape, rural areas that it can make a difference to, that can enter the gig economy. It's holding them back. And who does this BEE benefit? It benefits the local BEE billionaires. I think that this whole thing is just being exposed through Starlink. Don't talk about sovereignty issues. I think that's just rubbish.
Clement, on the issue of Elon, the law is clear. He just has to follow the law. And this thing of people now saying, you know, hey, this will benefit the poor this, poor education. You know, people like to use the poor when they want to benefit themselves. You know, they don't care about the poor. Elon doesn't care about the poor. He doesn't care about black people, let alone black poor people. That's not the reason he wants to come to South Africa. He wants to come here for his own benefit. He's a businessman. He's not here to come and benefit black poor people. So I don't think it's a good idea to now amend that the law just to accommodate his company.
Well, Terence on the WhatsApp line says, Clement, regarding the Phala matter, I'm surprised that you think that Wally Rhoda was rogue and decided to investigate the case by himself instead of reporting the matter to the SAPS. As far as I'm concerned, it's clear that he acted under strict instructions. Keep this matter private and confidential. Well, the question is, why were they so obsessed with wanting to keep it private and confidential. What were they hiding? I mean, people stole from a president's farm. Those people must be held accountable. The police must investigate. So what are you hiding about that theft? Well, now we know why they were actually trying to hide that investigation, don't we?
Good day, Clement. Good day, 72 lenders. Abraham in Florida. Clement, sure. As far as the SAPS is concerned, I'm of the view that actually the whole SAPS is supposed to be restructured and rebranded as an entity because, wow, the things that are coming out from there. And IPIT, on the other hand, is reporting on matters that are not making sense. That guy, Rueda, is supposed to come and account for the money that was the actual amount that was stolen because we're not Clement. They are forgetting that there's a court that's already running there in Bela. And the amounts that are being counted there don't correspond with what IPIT told us on the social to say it's about 10 to 15 million rand that's been stolen. But the money, on the other hand, that's been spent by the accused or the perpetrators of the crime is not linking up. It's way more than the amount that is being reported to be missing or stolen.
Part of the 702 family.
Hi, my name is Kamohelo Modise. Live in Pretoria. I started listening to 702 back in the years of John Robbie, Tolane Gwala, UCBS Makaiza, and Azania Masaga. I love 702 because it's very informative with business as well as politics.
Welcome to our 702 family. Let's walk the talk.
Joburg is more than just a city. It's a home for dream creators, operators, change makers. In celebration of this, 702 has partnered with Josie My Josie to unite the whole of Joburg in the 702 Josie My Josie Walk the Talk Babize Bonke. So on Sunday, the 26th of July, we're going on a walk through the iconic Johannesburg CBD, and we want you to join us and be part of something special. Enter now on primemediaplus.com and get ready for the 702 Josie My Josie Walk the Talk hosted by the city of Johannesburg. Walk with the people, for our Josie. Babize Bonke. More on primemediaplus.com.
For over 4 decades, Exaro and Eskom have powered South Africa together. Now, that partnership grows stronger. On Friday, catch the Clement Manyathela Show live from the official opening of Exaro's Mine 1 expansion project in Kriel, Mpumalanga. The milestone marks a major investment into a long-term coal supply to Eskom's Matla power station and continued energy generation for millions of people. Don't miss the conversations shaping SA's energy future. That's the Clement Manyathela Show, live from Matla Coal Mine on Friday with Exaro, powering progress across Africa and beyond on 702.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulum. Hawks officer Joseph Sibola will be taking the witness stand at the Madlanga Commission today. His testimony is expected to focus on the botched July 2021 drug bust in the south of Johannesburg. Police confiscated 751 kilograms of cocaine from a truck, but the operation has been marred by allegations of police members who tried to steal the drugs. Sibola was present at the time and arrested 2 SAPS officers, a traffic cop and a civilian on suspicion of theft. The charges against all 4 were later dropped due to lack of evidence. Public Works Minister Dean McPherson will receive a reprimand from the Speaker in the National Assembly and will have to apologize to Action SA supporters for calling them amapara, a term used to describe drug addicts and people involved in societal ills. Parliament's Ethics Committee has sustained the complaint from the party, finding that the term, as directed towards supporters outside the Pietermaritzburg High Court last year, was derogatory and defamatory. The committee has not accepted McPherson's explanation that he was just referring to a particular incident of an intoxicated individual who allegedly formed parts of an Action SA protest. Lindsay Dentlinker has more.
The Ethics Committee has found that by using the term amapara, Minister Dean McPherson contradicted the Code of Conduct in that he failed to maintain public confidence and trust in the integrity of Parliament. It added that the usage of the word is contrary to the duty and responsibilities of an MP to eradicate all forms of discrimination. Contrary to Macpherson's defence that the term is not derogatory, the committee found that it indeed was, in that it labels someone as an outcast from society. But Action SA is not letting the matter rest with Parliament. It says it will now use the finding as supporting evidence in its ongoing complaint against Macpherson before the South African Human Rights Commission. MP Alan Beasley said it was disappointing to note that the DA had not taken action against Macpherson. Lindsay Dentinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
The prosecution in the child sexual abuse trial of Ian Weyers has urged the Wynberg Regional Court not to allow any further delays. Sentencing proceedings were postponed yesterday after Weyers' new attorney requested more time to prepare. Weyers was convicted of indecently assaulting a former pupil at Rondebosch Boys Primary School while teaching there in 1988. He told the court that his lawyer told the court that he needed more time after Weyers' previous lawyer withdrew from the case 2 months ago. Ntutuzelo Nene was in court.
Ian Weyers' attorney William Fullard has asked the Wynberg Regional Court for more time to obtain a social worker's report ahead of sentencing proceedings. Magistrate Vanessa Miki granted the defense a 5-week postponement to finalize preparations.
The matter is then adjourned until the 17th day of June 2026. It is for pre-sentence proceedings. The accused bail is extended for additional post M and post A.
Ndutuzelo Nene, Eyewitness News.
And a Tunisian appeals court has upheld the 3.5-year prison sentences of 2 prominent journalists jailed for alleged financial crimes. Murad Zaghidi and Buhan Basasi were sentenced in January for money laundering and tax evasion accusations they have denied. Since President Kais Saied staged a sweeping power grab in 2021, rights groups have denounced a regression in freedoms in Tunisia. Dozens of his critics are currently behind bars. The case against the journalist has been condemned by media rights groups Reporters Without Borders as judicial harassment. Prosecutors say the pair is rich and they possess property they were hiding, improperly accusing them of money laundering after deeming their tax payments way too low. Gold is trading at $4,701.17 an ounce. The rand is at 16.39 to the dollar, 22.17 to the pound, 19.21 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $105.85 a barrel.
In the traffic lights are out in Midrand at Old Pretoria and Olifantsfontein, as well as in Kyalami at the R55 and Kenilworth.
A fine day in store for Gauteng. The temperatures will peak at highs between 21 and 23 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. Hawks officer Joseph Sibola will be taking the witness stand at the Madlanga Commission this morning.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Visit primemediaplus.com to enter 702 Josie My Josie Walk the Talk. Hosted by the City of Johannesburg. Walk with the people, for our Josie.
For Joburg, by Joburg, in Joburg.
Bamise bonke.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app,
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
Seven minutes after 10 o'clock. Dumelang, Sanbonani, Bonjour, good morning. Welcome to the second hour of the Clement Manyathela Show on this beautiful Thursday morning. It's not as cold as it's been over the last couple of days, so that's good. Thank you for staying with us here on 702. And as always, I appreciate your calls, your contributions on the 702 open line. Remember, at 11 o'clock, we're going to do the Thursday dialogue. And today, I'm going to be asking if we as South Africans and we as the media have treated DA scandals differently to the ANC ones. Remember when I hosted Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi on the show a few weeks ago? He sparked a pointed conversation when he just suggested that South Africans and the media hold the Democratic Alliance to a different standard than the ANC when it comes to scandals. And just a case in point is when there was that multi-million rand fumigation scandal in Gauteng, when Panyaza Lesufi was the MEC of Education, people were calling on him to be fired or to even resign. And when Panyaza says, yeah, but I'm not involved in procurement processes, people were like, but the buck stops with you, including the Democratic Alliance. Now there's a big textbook scandal in the Department of Education, and a DA minister is presiding over that department. She also says, but I'm not involved in procurement processes. And that seems to be an acceptable explanation. But was it acceptable, though, when Panyaza Lesufi said it? That's what Panyaza Lesufi raised. So I want us to interrogate that further. And that's not the only scandal we'll look at. We'll look at Solimalat's scandal as well. Because remember, he's had to apologize to the public and explain that blunder of his department because they had to withdraw a recently gazetted national AI policy because his department discovered fake and fictitious sources cited in the document. And then Dean McPherson as well, the Minister of Public Works, who decided to take his partner on a trip to Brazil, paid for you and I at a cost of 350,000 rand. And that's not to suggest that there was anything that he did that broke the law. For me, it's the hypocrisy of the Democratic Alliance, because they used to complain about ANC ministers who take their wives and husbands and partners on work trips because that costs us more as taxpayers. So why did Dean McPherson then take his partner to Brazil? Why don't just get your partner a flight ticket? Why must I, as a taxpayer, pay more on the trip because you want to take your partner, but you were against it when the ANC was doing it? That's double standards. So we'll be talking about that on our Thursday dialogue at 11 o'clock. But right now, we start with our Hanging Out feature.
Hanging Out with Clement
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
And today, I am hanging out with our colleague here at 702, Aubrey Masango, who hosts the Aubrey Masango Show every single day here on 702 from 8 p.m. And he's joining us in studio this morning as we get to know him better. Thank you for coming through, Bra Obs. You look a bit nervous.
I am very nervous. I tell you, I am so nervous, Clem. Thank you very much for inviting me, man. I feel like I've made it.
You've made it a long time ago.
I feel like I can call my mom and say, Mom, I've done it, man. I'm on the same show.
I mean, look, the messages are already started coming through actually on the open line. But there's one that just dropped in now, Joe K, who says, hi, Clement, thank you for bringing this legend into the studio, Aubrey Masango, who is one of the best 702 hosts. I listen to his show every single day. So that's just one message.
Thank you, Joe.
The point I'm trying to make is you made it a long time ago. And
my brother,
that is why we are privileged to have you here.
I really appreciate that.
So where does one even begin? Utswako mums.
Yeah.
Full time.
Full time. I'm born and bred. Kokasi. Of course, I had the privilege of getting out Kokasi and went to certain private schools.
Mm-hmm.
But
in Johannesburg.
In Johannesburg. So I in Pretoria first, and then later to Johannesburg. So I went to a convent. In my primary school years.
I went to that?
Yep, it was interesting. and then I went to a school called Christian Brothers College in Johannesburg, CBC. You probably heard of that. Then I went to St. John's here in Johannesburg. So not in Pretoria, CBC in Pretoria, and then Johannesburg. I went to a school called St. John's College. So I've had my fair share of years outside of Mamelodi, but I'm a thoroughbred of Mamelodi.
Of mums.
Yeah, and full time.
How do you think that place has shaped who Aubrey Masango is today?
I think it's not just Mamelodi that shaped who Aubrey Masango is today. I think it's a combination of all the factors, both Mamelodi and outside of Mamelodi, that have shaped who I am today. But I think Mamelodi has given me a sense of a love for authenticity, a love for realness, which is something that you get from township life. To be comfortable with unglamorous authenticity. And I think that Mumps gave me that, in the sense that I'm very comfortable in many, many different environments. While I'm also a little bit awkward in those same environments.
So when you move into schools like St. John's, though, how did you manage to adapt to that environment with where you come from? Because I remember when I got to the University of Pretoria, which was the first time.
I was also there too.
Yes, I know.
Good
Ducks. Ducks of Nix.
Ducks of Nix.
Yeah.
But
Yes,
Chelsea Burnley, buddy.
That used to be my lunch, eh? Chelsea bun every single day, because it was like R5 something.
Yeah, you could
but
afford
it would,
it.
and that's what we could afford. And
Sure.
you know, when you eat a Chelsea bun at 10 in the morning, you are sorted for the rest of the day.
Absolutely.
The next meal is going to be in the evening.
Sure.
But when I arrived at UP, that was the first time I ever had like a teacher or a lecturer who's white.
Yeah.
First time ever. It was a culture shock. And I mean, there's a lot of adaptation that is required as a guy who was coming from a village. I mean, your context is different. I'm trying to understand, though, like as someone who comes from Kokasi, did you still, and was the space at St. John's open for you to still be that chap, or you needed to adapt and change certain things?
It's actually a very interesting question. I don't think that the environment of St. John's was prepared to accommodate guys from Mamelodi. I think that the environment at St. John's was prepared to accommodate boys. And the idea that St. John's had of what a boy is at the time was very uniform. So it catered for a boy through the lens of a particular culture and a particular history and a particular approach to the world, to a particular worldview. So the adapting had to happen more with us. I remember at the time, I think there were 5 of us. Five black boys in the year that I came in.
In your class or the entire school?
No, in my class.
Okay.
In my class. There were guys that came before us and guys that came after us. Bongani being was one of them.
You also went to St. John's?
Yes.
Hey, Lady Cheese Boy, Muslina.
You didn't know that?
Yeah, man, I didn't know that.
St. John's, Bongani came a few years after me, but the St. John's experience was one where we had to do a lot more adapting than I suppose would be expected today. We had to learn what the words were that were being said to us, because they were being said in an accent that we didn't really, that wasn't usual to our ears. So we had to learn not only the words, but the way that the words were being said. Then we had to understand the meaning of those words. Then we had to understand the meaning of those words in context. So there was a lot of adaptation, but I loved St. John's. I was pretty good at sport. And
did you play?
I played rugby. Yeah, I played rugby. I played squash. I dabbled a little bit in athletics. And in a school like that, people who do well in sport become quite comfortable. So I was in many ways a bit of a jock, right? But I also had a nerdy side of me, if that makes any sense. And I had great teachers at St. John's. I had exceptional teachers. I mean, I can still remember people that taught me at St. John's even to this day. So I had a good time at St. John's. I know that it's popular these days to speak ill of schools like that. I had a great time there.
I've got a child of my friend goes to the school, so sometimes I go watch the rugby matches when they're playing. So It's really a good school from what I've seen.
Sure.
So when did the love for broadcasting then come? Because, I mean, you were a lecturer. At what point did you think, actually, this is something I can get into?
It's the weirdest story. I was talking to KG just before I came in now. I've been here for 16 years.
702.
Yeah, 702 for 16 years.
So, in fact, I was trying to think this morning that who in the lineup has been here longer than anyone else?
I've been here for 16 years.
And you're probably there.
Yeah, I've been here for 16 years.
It's you.
So, interesting story.
Yes.
I was watching a game on television with a friend of mine in Mamelodi. We had started a Coca-Cola wholesale business. My family is in Coca-Cola, taxis, and all sorts of things, right? And my best friend, still is my best friend now, Mogodedi Mukhadime, and I were watching soccer. It was the World Cup, 2010?
2010.
And at the same time, I'm listening to David O'Sullivan, and he was talking about something. So I say to my friend, I can do this. So he says, stop talking, man, and just get on with it. If you think you can do it, do it. So I immediately type, as he's saying that, I immediately type a message to David O'Sullivan via email. Thinking, this is nothing, man. He'll never write back. David O'Sullivan responds right there and then to say, no, I'm not the person to speak to. The person to speak to is our programming manager. It's a guy by the name of Alistair Teeling-Smith. This is his email address. I'm thinking, this is crazy. So I write to Alistair Teeling-Smith right there and then. Alistair Teeling-Smith says to me, come and see me tomorrow.
Hey,
the next
tomorrow?
Day. Tomorrow.
Hey, man.
I arrive at the old studios, and there's Alistair, and we start talking about stuff, and he says, what are you doing tonight? That same night. So I'm like, what do you mean, what am I doing tonight? He says, come, let's try you out.
What?
It was what we used to call overnight live. It was the graveyard shift from 12 o'clock until 4 o'clock in the morning. And I came that evening, and the rest, as they say, is history.
What?
It was like
You basically got a job in 24 hours.
Well,
you decided, I want this. I could do this. And then you sent emails. The next day, you were told, come.
And then I discovered I couldn't do this.
How? What happened?
Because I began to realize that this isn't as easy as just talking in a mic, right? It is. You really need to connect with listeners. You really need to listen to what they're saying, and you need to connect with listeners. You got to understand, from midnight until 4 o'clock, you're just talking to people, and all the insomniacs, and all of the conspiracy theories, and all of the weird stuff. It's the weirdest thing, right? Overnight live is really crazy. And then at 3:15 in the morning, John Robbie, like clockwork, 3:15 in the morning, will pass by to go get himself a cup of coffee. And I had the privilege over those years to have conversations with John Robbie straight after my show. And then he'd give me pointers, because he'd be listening to the show while he was driving to work. And I remember John saying to me, Orbs, stop trying to present a show. Just have a conversation. So he said to me, stop trying to present a show. Stop trying to be a presenter. Just have a conversation with people, and you'll see people. And I think when I started to really take that seriously, then things started to change.
Amazing.
And that was the beginning.
That is so interesting. I want us to play some of the music you enjoy when you're not presenting on the radio. Isn't it funny though that the same Alistair who gave you a job 16 years or so ago is here?
He's still here
as our boss.
He's still here. I still talk to Alistair. He still talks to me about the quality of the show, the sound of the show. Many things have changed, right? But I think that the soul of the station remains the same.
And I'm interested in that when I get into it after that, because I want to know and I've asked John Robbie the same question when he came on the show, like,
Yeah.
What do you think has changed about the station?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I also think at the time I was listening to a station that I think is quite different to what the station is today.
Sure.
So what do you listen to? I mean, Mary J. Blige, do you like her?
So I don't listen to Mary J. Blige per se, but there is a particular song that Mary J. Blige sings with George Michael. It's a Stevie Wonder song. Stevie Wonder song. I think has the most beautiful lyrics, but it's the one song that gets me dancing.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's get him dancing.
As around the sun, the earth knows she's revolving, and the rosebuds know to bloom in early May. Just as hate knows love's a cure, you can rest your mind assured that I'll be loving you always. As now can't reveal the mystery of tomorrow, but in passing we'll grow older every day. Just as all is born is new, you know what I say is true, that I'll be loving you always. Until the rainbow burns the stars out of the sky. Always. Until the ocean covers every mountain. So it's gonna be always. Until the day that it's our day, you know it's gonna be always. Until the day that is the day that I know. Did you know that true love lasts for nothing? Her acceptance is the way we pay. Did you know that life has given love a guarantee to last through forever? Another day. As today I know I'm living, but tomorrow could make me the past, but that I mustn't fear, 'cause you're here. Now I know deep in my mind the love of me I felt behind, and I'll be loving you until the rainbow burns the stars out in the sky. Loving you until the ocean covers every mountain high. Loving you until the dolphins fly and Paris liberty. Loving you until the dream of life and life becomes a dream. Now ain't that loving you? Always. Until the trees and seas just up and fly away. I'll be loving you forever.
Mr. Masango, DJ Sbu here. My favorite radio host, not only on 702 in the country. Mr. Masango's mind is amazing. His delivery and just how he does his radio is just totally amazing. I just wanted to give you flowers, my brother. Still waiting for you on the podcast, by the way. I just love how you engage listeners, how you switch between Singamla, Libuslemu Bakoskila, all the way to your streetwise, slipping in there when you're on air. You engage on any issue, and you've got very insightful topics. Incredible team that you have, and shout out to everyone that you work with over there. I just thought I should send you some love, my brother. You give us really good nighttime radio. Love you. Blessings.
Clement, good morning. Oh my goodness, yeah, you hosting Bra Obze, Kairata Aujenam. I love Obze to base. It's just unfortunate because I never got to listen to him every night because I work so hard during the day. And by the time he start getting on end, and I'm so exhausted, and then I wanted to go and sleep. But yeah, I mean that's my DJ of the year. That guy, I can tell you that much. No, Bra Obze, Kakurata Buruaka man, Kakurata so much. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Clement. A great show as always, brother. Thanks, man. Bye.
Greetings, Clement Manyathela. This is Sandile from Pinoni. What a legend. Thank you for bringing Praops on the studio there. This man is a very powerful man. I continuously listen to his shows each and every night. So, man, I ain't got words for him. He's such an angel. You know what? Praops. I envy you, I like you, and I love you for who you are. Thank you, Praops. Sandile from Pinoni.
Thank you. Thank you for
man.
your WhatsApps. That's so cool.
Wow.
In fact, I have.
Boo, eh?
Yeah. And many of these guys are, I think 3 of them or 2 said, I love you.
Oh,
That's
man.
very rare to
Yeah,
also
yeah.
hear from the listeners who call in.
Yeah.
When I've got a guy here and they're like, hey, Kyaurada, Otaka. That is so cool.
Yeah. I think I'm very comfortable with affection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm very, very comfortable with affection. I don't know if I'm comfortable with openly showing it.
Yeah.
But I'm very
Are you
affectionate.
an expressive person?
I love deep and I love hard. So I get hurt quite easily.
Yeah.
But I'm very affectionate. And I suppose but I can also be like thorny too.
Yeah, but well, people who who love hard also can get mad hard.
Absolutely,
I know that. So I'm averse to vulnerability. I'm not a vulnerable person.
Yeah.
So,
But I suppose that's why you've developed the discipline of incisive thinking.
you think?
I know I'm absolutely sure about this. You don't mind if I just go
Well,
into
just
your
take
thing?
over. That's
Very,
what
very quickly.
presenters do anyway.
So-
You just want to take over.
So guys like me, I think, appeal to the emotional side of people. And I think guys like you appeal to the cerebral side of people.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why that happens, I think, is because you have developed the discipline of pushing the emotional side away from you so that you can focus on the cerebral. Whereas I think a guy like me, on the other hand, has pushed away the overly cerebral and has embraced the emotional. And that's why I think the love thing happens so much.
I like that. What do you think, before we go to headlines, is different to, I mean, you've stood in on other shows.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've done your show
you've done
too,
my
yeah,
show,
yeah.
you've done other shows, but I feel like there's a specific audience and there's a specific relationship and companionship in nighttime radio. Like,
Yeah.
Because the people I meet who listen to you, like, they really are loyal to you. They really are.
Really, huh?
Yes, and I really think that it's also, I mean, you obviously the brilliance in your broadcasting, but I also think that time of radio just allows for more connection to be formed.
Absolutely.
I don't know. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think our time, and I'm just thinking about Ntateng even as you say this now. Our time is really about reflection, about the stuff that you have talked about during the day, about the stuff that Bongani has talked about, Mandy has talked about in the day. So the listener that listens to us is not looking for new information.
They know it already.
They've heard about it, and they've had the interpretation of that stuff. What they're looking for now is reflection. They're looking for, let's really get into this kind of thing. And I think that that kind of time and the amount of time I've got lends itself to my character. So we can then go into stuff and really pontificate and opine and,
Yeah. All right, it's 10:31. Time for the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. When I come back, I see your many, many WhatsApp voice notes that have come through and your many, many, many calls. I'll get to them after the latest in Eyewitness News headlines as we continue our conversation with Aubrey Masango, the host of the Aubrey Masango Show here on 702. Sfiso, good morning.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. Proceedings have started in the Constitutional Court where disgraced Dr. Nandipha Magudumana is challenging the legality of her extradition. Magudumana is challenging how she was brought from Tanzania back to South Africa with her lover, convicted rapist and murderer Thabo Bester. They were arrested while on the run in Arusha in 2023 after Bester escaped from the Mangaung prison in the Free State. Health Minister Arun Motsoaledi has confirmed that an antiretroviral medicine to protect against HIV will be rolled out from the 5th of June. Delivering his budget vote in Parliament yesterday, Motsoaledi said stocks will be delivered to 360 health facilities in high-burden districts, but he's warned that cervical cancer is now fast becoming the country's new pandemic. And a court has detained a powerful former aide of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. His name is Andrei Yermak, on allegations of corruption in a high-profile graft probe that has roiled Ukraine. Yermak served as Zelensky's right-hand man during most of Russia's invasion until his resignation in November last year, when he was linked to a multi-million dollar corruption scandal that hit the Ukrainian leader's inner circle. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
In the traffic at this hour, there are no major accidents on the road. In fact, they are looking really clear. So in the meantime, what you can look out for are those faulty traffic lights in Amalgam at Main Reef and Church Street, in Edenvale at the N3 and Modderfontein, as well as in Bramley at the M1 North and Collet. In the capital city, traffic lights are also out in Blue Hills at Summit Road and the R55, in Anlin at Paul Kruger and Lavender, as well as at Paul Kruger and Link. I'll have more updates at the top of the hour.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
Rick Grayling asked, what are you so afraid of with Trump and Elon Musk? It is their power and how they think about people that look like me. That's what I'm afraid of. The history books are full of the atrocities committed against people that look like me by people who look like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, who had immeasurable power. The millions of people who were killed in the Congo by King Leopold of Belgium, the atrocities of Atlantic slave trade. For those that were not the victims of that abuse of power, it is a matter of get on with it, move on.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
Hi, this is Michael Owen, Hollywood Bets brand ambassador. Being a champion, I know the best performances come from making the right decisions on and off the pitch. Enjoy the game, enjoy the excitement, but play responsibly. Gambling responsibly is about staying in control so you can enjoy it your way. If you or someone you know needs support, help is always available. Call the South African Responsible Gambling toll-free counselling line on 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
Oh, Shane, do you have a sore throat? The Andalex range of lozenges offers two options. At the first signs of an irritated, scratchy throat, use Andalex lozenges for dual action, soothing relief. But for a painful, inflamed throat, use Andalex C lozenges for triple action, pain relief. Andalex, SA's #1 choice for a sore mouth and throat. Andalex lozenges are available at all leading pharmacies and supermarkets.
Just Andalex it.
In a world that is continuously evolving, Africa is adapting, innovating, and finding new pathways for growth. RMB Africa Focus is back for its 5th season to unpack the conversations shaping the continent right now. Every week on 702, award-winning journalist Crystal Odison takes a closer look at influential economies and emerging opportunities across Africa with insights from RMB experts and regional voices. So catch RMB Africa Focus Thursday on 702 Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa. Make sure you watch the in-depth video series with episodes released weekly on Prime Media Plus. RMB, a leading African corporate and investment banking.
Hanging out with Clement
on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
24 minutes before 11 o'clock. Ritswere Lenyora. On the 702 open line this morning. Lepara, la go Pitori Mahlanyeng. Why do they say Pitori ke Mahlanyeng?
Because we have the Vescopi's psychiatric ward.
Really?
Psychiatric hospital there. So it's a, for the longest time, it was probably the biggest psychiatric hospital in the Southern Hemisphere.
What? Southern Hemisphere?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's why about Mahlanyeng.
Yeah, and you here you've got you've got Grundakis here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's over here. Yeah. Okay, so I want to go to some calls quickly. Thabo, let's start with you. Let's start with Kabelo from Pretoria. Kabelo, utswa Pitori lwena, Thobela.
No, Clement. I'm not from Pretoria. I'm from the Western, but I work in Mamelodi.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, brother.
I go by the Twitter handle Kabelo MG. I think Aubrey.
Yeah, hello Kabelo MG. How's it, bruh?
No, I'm accusing you, Aubrey.
I'm
First
good,
time-
my brother. Go ahead.
Yeah, today I took guys to speak to you. I've been a listener of Aubrey from day one, and then since then. But what I like about him, and then incidentally he mentioned that how his connection to the township, he uses that to be descriptive about concept. I still can't forget when he described Commissioner Patlani's music system, the one that led him in trouble.
Yes.
Aubrey said at the time, hey man, but that music, we better keep Congo that idea. I'll never forget that. So there's no better way of having described that music system.
Yeah, there isn't. There isn't. Camelo in Pretoria, thank you, man.
Thanks very much.
Tibos in Rodeport, hi.
Bra obza muna mulu wa slang.
Hey, Tarame Auti.
Muna mulu wa slang.
Are you well?
Well, bra obza.
Hey,
Clement.
Hey, sir.
Madimich.
Hey.
Ulutile muna mulu wa slang mo.
Lenyora.
You know that hot man. Every time when it comes to the radio, there's a certain vibe that you know, even if you're having a bad day from the office, driving from Pretoria to back to the West End, and when you open the Aubrey Masango show, it's called, let's talk about this. Yeah, this is what they're saying. Yes, you know those voices that makes you laugh, and the way you address issues. I can say, Clement, you're having one awesome person there.
Yeah.
And I hope you're still going to learn from him more. And I see you're getting there. Let's get away from me. You're getting there.
Thank you, Tibos in Rodeport. Thank you so much for your call. How, Braobs, because one of the things about the kind of shows that we do is, I mean, you do a long form show.
Sure.
And often you have to give your comment about things. How do you navigate that space? Because, you know, people get to be sensitive sometimes. So you may give a comment that someone doesn't like. Or how do you navigate that space? Do you think you've built a platform where people who will really listen to you are okay with the comments and how offensive, quote unquote, to them they may be, and how their comments may also be offensive to you?
I think over time,
because I find that space to be quite tricky, even for myself.
Sure. I think over time we build relationships with our listeners. We build a rapport with our listeners. And I believe that there are a number of ways of knowing.
Yes.
There's a way of knowing something intellectually, and then there's a way of knowing something emotionally. I think over the years I have developed an emotional connection with listeners, those that like me and don't like me. And by the way, the best compliments that I've received, I think, are from people who don't like me. But when somebody doesn't like you, they've developed a connection with you. That's why they don't like you. They're not indifferent. They don't like you. You see what I'm trying to say? There's a connection. And so people have a connection with me emotionally. So they know my heart. We might not agree intellectually. But I think that there is a knowledge, a sense that I know that when Aubrey says what he says it from the heart. I'm not the brightest of guys, but I feel deep. And so I connect with people at a feeling level very deeply. So even when they don't agree with me, there is still the sense that I know that it comes from an authentic place.
Yes, I like that. I really do. Okay, so let me go to some YouTube comments and then we go to WhatsApps. On YouTube, Real Jackson says, "Whoa, Clement, Aubrey Masango, the vocabulary is out of this world. No wonder his revelation as Model C student made him so brainy.
Never a Model C student. I've never been at a Model C school."
This is Real Jackson who says, "Salute, Bra Obs."
And
then another one says, Mamulefi on YouTube says, "Bra Aubrey, what an open-minded, thought-provoking host." And then Sly, Slamibaloy says on YouTube, "I've been listening to this legend for many years, even when he was presenting the dead hours." Mabitsela on YouTube says, "Clement, this man is a legend. Thank you for bringing him here. I really like his command of the Queen's language." So that's what Mabitsela says there on YouTube. Here are some WhatsApp voice notes that have come through.
Hi. Hi, Clement. Thank you for bringing Pra-Ops in the show. But we are Simora. We sleep late every day, 12 o'clock. Umuntu lala ngo-12 kanti bakala that this legend. But thank you. We enjoy his show. Thank you, Pra-Ops. Have fun. We love you, Virginia Chabulani.
Good morning, Clement Manyathela. Thank you for having Upra Ops. I listen to him every single day, Monday to Friday. I listen to him anyway. I'm a 702 listener, 24/7. I don't switch my radio off. Aubrey, I just want to tell you that your show that you are hosting are healing a lot of people. And I just personally want to say thank you to you that I called in one day and I was crying because my son passed away, and you immediately prayed there for me with, I think it was a psychologist that was there by that day when I called in. And I just want to say thank you. I don't have words to express it, but I really appreciated it. Thanks, Pra-Ops. Thanks so much. Thanks, Glennie. Bye.
Do you remember that call?
Yeah, I do.
Wow.
I remember her. I remember her well.
That's
and I remember the feeling that I got when she called, because she felt to me like she was. And I think it's probably what people do when they post on social media. It's like a cry out to the universe. It's like a help me, you know. And I think that she was very, very bewildered by the terrible loss that she was feeling at the time, and I remember her voice very well.
Yeah. But what a and I think that's what radio is supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
This companionship where there's a community that's created that can be there for each other.
Yeah.
And if someone can call in that moment of vulnerability, and they're reaching out to you, that means you've created space for them to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if they're reaching out to me, the individual, Clem. And it speaks to the power that we enjoy as presenters on radio, I believe. I think that they're reaching out to the 702 family through Clement, through Bongani, through Mandy, through Dada John. We are conduits rather than the people that they are reaching out to. So when somebody reaches out to Clement or to Aubrey, they're reaching out to the family, to this network of power and love and responsibility and so forth. So
I do also think that you must still create a safe space.
Sure.
Because there are many people in their cars right now who may be wanting to call about something, but are they feeling safe to do so?
Sure.
And they are reaching into the broader community, but the host is that conduit, as you say. And if they're not creating a safe space and allowing to be vulnerable, and I don't think they'll be able to do it. Speaking of healing, Bam Bam Zalwani, Spirit of Praise, that's another song that's your favorite. Why?
It's my homage to Ntading. You remember Ntading and I worked for 10 years together. I've been here for 16 years. Ntading was my producer. A lot of my listeners will know when I say Ntading. And she was such an integral part of my life and reality. And by the way, she passed on almost a year ago. And whenever I came into the studio, we'd always have a little song that we'd be humming together. So when she passed away, I became familiar with the song, and it soothes me in memory of Ntati.
Hey, Clement, you've got a legend on your show today. I remember Aubrey from CBC days in the 80s. I was a few years ahead of him. He was a fine young gentleman then, and obviously he turned out to be even better than anyone would have hoped at that stage. So yeah, Bra Obs, I'm a big fan of yours. I follow your show in the evenings, and I'm so glad that you're getting a platform to be celebrated on Clement's show. It's Marcellus Hoods from Pretoria. Have a good one. Bye.
Hey, Clem, Mpumelelo here. Yeah, Oprah Obs, and quite a number of people know me as Lelo Mzata. When I worked at EWN there in 702 and Highveld, Oprah Obs, there's also Isibis Makaza, Kino Kamis, Victor Khomusan. They used to hijack me on Friday nights to come and have like opinions about sport and stuff. That man is a great broadcaster. He really, really, really is. And I still listen to him even to this day. But Obs, you're doing a great job, my brother. And may God continue to bless you. Olenyora. Oh, and Bongani Pingwa also schooled where I'm from. Go Valne. Yeah, go Suncrest. Sharp.
Good morning, Clem, and the great legend, Aubrey Masango. One of the humble presenters of 702. He doesn't judge. He listens to each and every one. He remained one of my favorite on the station from 8 until midnight. Good guy, to be exactly. Thanks for having him, Clement. I really like him, from Max in Pretoria.
Hi, Clement. You've got a late night legend right there with you. Jabu here in Randburg. Probs, man. Keep doing what you're doing. God bless you.
Hey, banna baurata.
Sure, bro.
That's so
it's
cool.
beautiful.
That
man.
is so beautiful.
Yeah, it is absolutely beautiful.
It's very rare.
We had a conversation one time about the show of affection between men, right? It was like really awkward. Hey, guys couldn't. But I'm loving the fact that guys are coming out and they're expressing love.
Yeah.
To another guy.
That's beautiful. I like
stuff.
that. Yeah. I've got friends who are very affectionate.
Yeah.
Who always will say I love you, and I always go, okay, sure, see you tomorrow. Thanks, yeah, but anyway, so
Lelo was a big bro of mine when he was here. Lelomzat.
Oh yes, when he was doing sports.
Man, we used to have some good time.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Ntombi, you calling us from Soweto. Good morning.
Hi. You are hosting a South African doing great things as a feature in his show. I'm very excited that we are giving him his flowers while he's still alive. I must confess that I am an empath myself and I'm an extremist. So Aubrey is one person who makes you understand yourself. So thank you for being real, bro Obs. Your topics,
Thank
how
you,
you
Dombi.
co-create them, and thank you for being vulnerable to us and using your own life mistakes to, the message resonates well. It really hits home. It strikes a nerve. When you spoke about your investment mistakes the other day, about how those guys, when they're convincing you, speak very wrong. And, it's the
Yes.
practical example. And from bringing our own very loved Dr. Magwenya,
Yes.
also telling his money mistakes and not only leaving us with question marks, but bringing practical examples of how can we solve that, our own money personality. So I'm extremely honored.
Dombi.
Like
Thank you.
you driving from Mami Lodi, showing us that you are a living proof that instant gratification, correcting mistakes that you were reckless with money in terms
Yes.
of giving out money. So thank you for being vulnerable, even about your first marriage, your divorce. We're learning a lot.
Ntombi in
Thank you, Dombi.
Soweto, thank you so much. That's a lovely call. So I said to you earlier, I wanted to get your thoughts on how the station has changed. You've been here for longer than many of us. What have you picked up about the station?
When I first came here, and I was very lucky, Clem, to be coached and surrounded by real radio people, real legends. Jenny Chris Williams. I mean, I used to have conversations with Jenny Chris Williams when we were driving to Soweto for various, outside broadcast stuff, and the things that she used to share. I've spoken about John Robbie. I used to sort of follow Kino Cummings. So when he finished his show, he'd also have a little bit of a chat with me during the news hour. So I was really surrounded by proper radio people. But at the time, we were consumed by the idea of trying to birth this new South African idea, this new South Africa thing. I think what has changed is that we left that behind, regrettably. The superpower of South Africa, the thing that made South Africa the envy of the world, was our protection of this idea of a rainbow nation.
Yeah.
It became popular to speak down to that idea. And I put up my hand as well. I'm part of that problem as well. We started to speak down to that idea when that was our superpower. That was the thing that separated us as a country from all other countries. That was what made South Africa aspirational. And we represented that in the way that we sounded on radio. Even though we disagreed and we had hard conversations, but that remained the aspiration that we must protect this very delicate thing. In the movie Gladiator, just at the beginning, the speaker, I can't remember who the character is, but speaks about the delicate idea that was Rome, that it was so delicate that your breath could literally destroy it. The idea of rainbowism was like that. I think we've lost that, and I regret that.
How do you regain that?
I think it's going to take a lot of courage from all of us, in the sense that we know it. We know that was our superpower. Yes, there are all sorts of unresolved issues, political, social, economical, that we need to speak to each other very frankly about. We're talking about the different communities of South Africa. We've got to be frank about these
and have
things.
the difficult conversations.
Absolutely, have the difficult conversations, but in defense of this idea that that is what I call rainbowism, which was the first global recognition of our shared humanity.
Yeah. Just the last question from someone was asking earlier that coming from a family that was in business, why didn't you end up in business yourself?
I'm still in business.
Oh, you're still doing
I'm
business?
still an
on the
entrepreneur,
side?
absolutely.
Okay.
I'm still an entrepreneur. I'm still involved in various companies. I'm still involved in business, and that's why nighttime radio works for me.
Works for you.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I can do stuff during the day.
Yeah.
But I'm still very much in
Someone
business, in
asked
family
earlier-
business as well.
Someone earlier asked me earlier, Clement, is he awake? What happens during this time on a normal day?
So
Are you sleeping?
No, I'm usually awake at this time. I
Yeah.
take my children to school, so
Yeah.
I'm up by 5. I didn't sleep until around about 5:30. Then I'm starting to take my kids to school, right? And then I start falling asleep at round about now, at about 11. Then I'm awake at 3 o'clock to go and fetch the kids. We do a little bit of homework.
Mhm.
Then around about 5-ish, I sleep again.
Okay.
Then I'm up again, getting ready for the.
Well, we're
the
going to
show.
release you to go take
Thank
your
you.
usual nap. Thank you so much
Clem,
for coming
I
through, man.
really want to thank you for inviting me here. It's such a feather in the cap. I really appreciate it, and you have become one of South Africa's foremost broadcasters. To be invited by you is a huge thing. Thank you.
You're too kind. Thank you so much. We've always wanted to have you on the show, and I'm glad we found the right time to bring you on. And we appreciate the work that you do.
Thank you, sir.
So continue with your brilliance. It's a minute before 11.
To you, it's just a glass sliding door. To your dog, it's an invisible force field to be tested. But it could also end up being an expensive vet bill. Get peace of mind with Outsurance Pet Insurance from only 65 Rand a month. You get claims paid in one day, a fixed excess, choose your own vet, and you could get a cash out bonus. SMS quote to 45149. That's quote to 45149. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Water is a precious and limited resource that we all depend on. Johannesburg Water continues to strengthen the city's water network through improved turnaround times for leak repairs, pressure management, and infrastructure upgrades to improve system reliability. But water conservation is a shared responsibility. Residents can help by fixing household leaks, turning off taps, taking shorter showers, and using water wisely. Every drop saved helps. Brought to you by Johannesburg Water, a water and sanitation utility that cares.
It's 11 o'clock, time for the news, and this Eyewitness News is brought to you by Momentum.
Losing money.
The business fundamentals are strong and solid, and in that sense, in the long run, you're going to see a sustainably profitable airline.
So for the moment, you're not making money.
Now, for the moment, we are focused on generating cash and preserving cash.
Machela Sashibe, the CEO at SAA.
The Money Show.
On 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Curtis is brought to you by ABSA Business Banking, featuring the AgriTrends 2026 Autumn Edition. In agriculture, smart moves need smart insights. Get the latest AgriTrends report at absaagritrends.co.za. ABSA is a registered FSP.
All right, let's get the news now. And this Eyewitness News is brought to you by Momentum. Financial advisors help you have a better shot at generational wealth. Speak to a Momentum accredited financial advisor. Momentum is part of Momentum Group Limited, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. We begin with news just in. The state has succeeded in its bid to have the long-running arms deal trial involving former President Jacob Zuma proceed despite any interlocutory applications. The High Court in Pietermaritzburg ruled a short while ago that the state and defense must now meet with the court registrar to finalize trial dates. The state argued that Zuma and his co-accused French arms company Thales have continued to use a so-called Stalingrad strategy to delay the prosecution. It submitted that the delays undermine the interests of justice and risk bringing the justice system into disrepute. We'll have more on this developing story in our next bulletins. Proceedings have started in the Constitutional Court, where disgraced Dr. Nandipha Magudumana is challenging the legality of her extradition. Magudumana is challenging how she was brought from Tanzania back to South Africa with her lover, convicted rapist and murderer Thabo Bester. They were arrested while on the run in Arusha in 2023 after Bester escaped from the Mangaung prison in the Free State. Khomozo Modise reports.
When Nandipha Magudumana took her extradition battle to the Supreme Court last year, the court dismissed her application, ruling that she failed to show that police acted unlawfully. The court also accepted the version by South African authorities that she was not arrested by SAPS in Tanzania, but she and Thabo Bester instead were arrested by Tanzanian authorities for violating immigration laws, and South African police only effected their arrest when they landed in South Africa. But there was a dissenting view from Justice Dadi Makgoka, who took issue with the process of handing over Magudumana from Tanzanian police to South African authorities, which Home Affairs claims was as a result of an agreement between the two countries. Makgoka ruled there is no procedure in international law where a fugitive can simply be handed over, and says the agreement between the two countries was unlawful. It is on that basis that Magudumana is approaching the Constitutional Court to have her arrest declared unlawful. Khomozo Modise, Eyewitness News.
Health Minister Aaron Motsoaledi has confirmed an antiretroviral medicine to protect against HIV will be rolled out from the 5th of June. Delivering his budget vote in Parliament, Motsoaledi says stocks will be delivered to 360 health facilities in high-burden districts. But he's warned that cervical cancer is now fast becoming the country's new pandemic. In South Africa, 65% of all women diagnosed with cervical cancer are also HIV positive. Lindsay Dentlinka reports.
With one of the highest HIV prevalence rates in the world, Minister Aaron Motsoaledi says eradicating HIV/AIDS in South Africa as a public health threat is within reach. The 6-monthly lenacapavir injection that is designed to prevent the transmission of HIV will be administered to specific categories of the population, which include adolescent girls and young women up to the age of 24. Motsoaledi says President Cyril Ramaphosa will officiate the launch of the drug in Mpumalanga.
As a country, we know that what is at stake because we have seen results before. When we increase life expectancy, reduce maternal mortality, reduce under 5 mortality, and reduce TB incidence.
But Motsoaledi says cervical cancer is now the second biggest killer of women after breast cancer. He says it's imperative that girls between the ages of 9 and 15 receive the HPV vaccine to reach new targets set by the World Health Organization. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
And a court has detained a powerful former aide of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, his name is Andrei Yermak, on allegations of corruption in a high-profile graft probe that has roiled Ukraine. Yermak served as Zelensky's right-hand man during most of his Russia's invasion until his resignation in November last year, when he was linked to a multi-million-dollar corruption scandal that hit the Ukrainian leader's inner circle. Prosecutors have accused Yermak of large-scale money laundering through the construction of an elite housing estate outside Kyiv. The court ruled to place Yermak in pre-trial detention for a period of 60 days unless he posts bail of $3.2 million. Gold is trading at $4,701.17 an ounce. The rand is at 16.39 to the dollar, 22.17 to the pound, 19.21 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $105.85 a barrel.
In the traffic, if you are leaving Benoni, there's slow-moving traffic on the N12 West. This is after Tom Jones due to an accident. And in Johannesburg, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic on the M2 West approaching Main Reef Road.
The breaking story in EWN this hour: the state has succeeded in its bid to have the long-running arms deal trial involving former President Jacob Zuma proceed despite any interlocutory applications.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
They say the early bird catches the worm. Great advice, unless you're the worm. Generic so-called wisdom doesn't work for everyone, so I settle for a financial plan that's one size fits some. Momentum accredited financial advisors take the time to get to really know your unique situation. Advice meets your context. Momentum, your journey to success. Momentum is part of Momentum Group Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
We're calling on Joburg to walk the inner city with us. In 702 Josie My Josie Walk the Talk. Babize bonke. Enter now on primemediaplus.com.
You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
8 minutes after 11 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the third and final hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for staying with us here on 702. It's time for our Thursday Dialogue.
The Dialogue with Clement Manyathela.
It's not just another roundtable discussion.
Let's walk the talk on 702.
Very simple question we're asking on our Thursday Dialogue this morning. And it's around scandals that affect the Democratic Alliance versus scandals that have affected the African National Congress. The question I'm asking you this morning is, do we treat DA scandals differently to ANC ones? I'm asking this question because a suggestion was made by Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi on the show a few weeks ago when I hosted him, and he sparked a pointed conversation when he suggested that South Africans and the media hold the Democratic Alliance to a different standard than the ANC, right, when it comes to scandals. And his comments follow a series of scandals involving DA ministers. So where does one even begin? Let me paint the picture for you, and then I'm going to bring in my guests. So there's a scandal involving the communications minister, Solly Malatsi, well, at least his department, because he had to apologize as minister to the public and explain the blunder from his department because he withdrew the recently gazetted national AI policy because his department discovered fake and fictitious sources cited in the document. And this is not a mere technical issue. I mean, this now somehow compromises the integrity and credibility of that draft policy, which we discussed on this show 2 weeks ago. So, I mean, imagine drafting an AI policy and using fake, made-up research to draft that policy. That's like our government falling victim to some of the risks associated with the usage of AI, which this policy is meant to address and regulate. And this embarrassment, I suppose, reaffirms why oversight matters so much with these AI tools. So far, 2 officials have been suspended over the scandal. And then we've got the Basic Education Minister, Sivuyo Gwagube, whose department has been embroiled in a textbook procurement scandal. Remember, News 24 has been reporting about Lighthouse Publishers, which was registered 3 days after the contract specifications were issued. It was selected as one of the suppliers, and it stands to make close to 300 million rand producing textbooks and learning and teaching support material, but it was registered 3 days after the contract specifications were issued, which means something is fishy there. We are told that the minister has since initiated an investigation, but this reminds me of what happened when Panyaza Lesufi was MEC of Education and there was that fumigation scandal, multi-million rand scandal. And there were calls, even from some within the DA, for the premier to be sacked or to resign. I mean, for the MEC at the time to resign. Because how could he not have known? So it was okay right now when Sivuyo Gwagube says, I'm not involved in procurement processes. But at the time when Panyaza Lesufi says, but I'm not involved in procurement processes, Did you take it as a South African? Was that justifiable to you? And that's the consistency I'm trying to determine here. And then lastly, there was a scandal involving Minister Dean McPherson, who is the Public Works Minister. He traveled to Brazil with his partner at a cost of 350,000 rand. And to be clear, I'm not suggesting that there was anything wrong that he did in as far as the law is concerned. It's just the hypocrisy for me more than anything else, even more than legality. Because the same DA used to complain that ANC ministers took their partners on trips. They complained about Malusi Gigaba. Remember when Malusi used to take his wife to New York on trips? They complained about Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams when she used to take her then husband and many other ministers of the ANC. And under the current state of government finances, what value is there to take your partner with to Brazil, which increases the cost on the department? Why is the DA then doing exactly what it used to call out ANC ministers for? So the question before us today is not simply about whether the DA is corrupt. It is about whether South Africans and the media apply the same outrage, the same scrutiny, and the same consequence expectation across party lines. Let me know what you think on 011-883-0702. You're welcome to send a WhatsApp as well on 0727021702. I've got a few guests I've invited this morning on the show. Let's start with Brutus Malada, who is a political analyst. Brutus, thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning.
We also have Jamie Mighty, who is a researcher, joining us on the line. Jamie, thank you for joining the conversation. Hi.
Good morning to you and the listeners. A pleasure to be here.
And Jan de Villiers is the spokesperson for the Democratic Alliance. Jan, thank you for making time. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning to yourself and to the listeners. It's nice to be with you.
Great to have you. Brutus, what do you think of the question we're asking today? Do you think that South Africans and the media has not been consistent in their response to the scandals affecting the ANC versus those affecting the Democratic Alliance?
Well, let me premise my response by making three observations. The first one is that on governance, there is a huge difference between being in opposition and being in government. It is like being a spectator and a player in the field of play. So one is very mouthful and critical, and the other is daunted by the demands in the field of play. So that's the first point. The second observation is that all parties, they tend to protect their own and close ranks. And I'm reminded of two scandals. You would remember the scandal concerning the DA with the chiefs of staff, a bouncer that was appointed in the city of Tshwane. So if the DA was a paragon of virtue or a champion of good governance and meritocracy, we would not have such an issue. The other scandal is the credit card scandal involving the then leader of the DA. So John had actually become a liability to the DA. And what they did, instead of holding him accountable, they realized that he doesn't meet the criteria for leadership, which is the personal financial prudence, because they would have to subject you to that scrutiny if you want to contest. So the narrative is that John decided to step aside and then a new leader has been elected. But in fact, it was a way of covering up on that very same scandal. So parties close ranks and protect their own. The last point, the third point, is being in government comes with perks, and these ministers are human, and many of them fail to resist the temptation to enjoy the spoils of government. And as we've seen, this is what someone, I think it was Joel, who called it a sense of incumbency. Now, coming to your point, I think media has been very lenient on the DA. We tend to see what I would characterize as selective morality. It's like using IB standard to examine the ANC while using Umalusi to measure the DA. So media, for me, has somehow, although it has exposed the hypocrisy of the DA on this spending, like Dean McPherson and the other scandals that I've mentioned, and the ones you have mentioned. But what you see is that the narrative that dominates is that narrative of reforms and good governance. So it is as if the media is saying these are bad guys, but not as worse as the ANC. So it's different shades of bad. That's what I'm seeing. But the consequence of this is it's two things. First is that in the absence of a viable alternative, anything that is better than the ANC is then presented as the best. So we are not strict in applying our scrutiny to the two parties because the ANC has put the standard so low that anything that is better than them, people tend to be much more receptive.
Okay.
Secondly, politicians are losing their capacity to be embarrassed. The scandals you have mentioned and the ones that I've added, some of them are very embarrassing. But while the politicians are losing their capacity to be embarrassed, they are also eroding the capacity of the public to be shocked. I mean, if you look at the scandals that we are seeing every day, we are actually losing our sense of shock as the public.
We're desensitized.
And this will lead us to accepting mediocrity as if that is the standard that we should lead or accept, whether in media or in governance.
Got you. Yeah, got you. Brutus, thank you. Let's go to Jamie Mighty now. Jamie, what do you think?
So thank you, Clement. I think the first thing is that we have to recognize the history of conversations around Black consciousness, conversations around Black competence. For a long period of time, there has been this narrative that has been perpetuated that, Black people are not good at particular things and that they're inherently more liable or prone to, bad behavior such as bad management and corruption. And as a result of this racialized narrative, which does unfortunately exist, we often do see that when we talk about management, when we talk about professional circles, there is this perception that, if, law firms are of a particular race, they are better and more qualified to do complex litigation, whereas if they are Black law firms, they are BEE, they're 30%, they are affirmative action. We've also seen this in the sports sector. You remember the rugby player who complained quite a bit about just always being referred to as a quota player, even though he had actually performed brilliantly as a rugby player, regardless of what his race was. And coming into the management space, I think that the Democratic Alliance has historically enjoyed this perception of competence, in part as a result of the history of apartheid South Africa, in part as a result of actually being in opposition, in part as a result of some of the perceptions which exist around the quality of governance in Cape Town. But if you were to examine, for example, Khayelitsha, Langa, and some of the other parts of Cape Town, you would actually find similar or comparable problems to what's happening in Johannesburg and other parts of South Africa. So I do think that the attitude is historic. If you read, Steve Biko, you will understand part of why those particular perceptions exist within the South African political and economic space. And I do think that the Democratic Alliance has enjoyed benefit of the doubt, even in instances where they ought maybe to have received more scrutiny. Now, the question then becomes, going forward, how do we recalibrate that?
And I'll come back to that in a moment. Jan, let me give you an opportunity to come in here. What do you make of how, as the Democratic Alliance, you have responded to some of these scandals that we've mentioned, and then those Brutus has added as well? Do you find that you've actually been able to meet the very same high standard that you have put up against the ANC?
Yeah, thank you, Clement, for the opportunity to be on the show. The DA has, as I think the speakers have pointed out, always been champions of accountability, and we certainly hold ourselves to those same standards. So wherever we find wrongdoing, wherever we find anyone in our ranks that needs to be held accountable, we pride ourselves on doing that. And, if we want to go into specific examples, we can do that. But I do think if I can use the example of John Steenhuisen, which was, used by the first speaker, when there was an allegation made by, a disgruntled Dion George when he left the party, that the federal leader then, John Steenhuisen, that he abused his party credit card. What was the reaction of the DA? And I do think, just as a point, when you're in opposition, people judge you according to what you say, but when you are in government, people judge you according to what you do. And so let's use that as an example. What did the party do? The party immediately said, okay, we will refer this to the Federal Legal Commission, which is our in-house department that's responsible for these sort of investigations. The Federal Legal Commission did a thorough financial recon of the credit card. A transparent process unfolded, a disciplinary process, and it was found that, I think the amount was just over 300 Rand that the leader mistakenly ordered very famously Uber Eats with, as you do on your app when you have to choose the credit card. He chose the wrong credit card. It was picked up by internal controls immediately, and John Steenhuisen then refunded the party immediately. Now, if you just use that example, a transparent process, accountability, no wrongdoing found, and nothing to hide behind. Yet, how was it perceived in the media? In the media, it was absolutely. And you could just hear the sentiment of the first guest. It was made like it was this massive scandal, this massive corruption. This is a person who just by mistake used the wrong credit card and then immediately refunded the party. But we were held to a very, very high standard by the media. You can talk about, you use the examples of Solly Malatsi, Minister Solly Malatsi, of Soweto Garube. The moment that those unfortunate incidents came out, it was in the media, and we were held to account, and the ministers are still being held to account. So, from my perception, I don't think it's fair to say that we are treated with kid gloves, or that we don't get the same type of scrutiny that other political parties, and especially the ANC, get when any of our leaders or our ministers are under the spotlight. I think the spotlight is real, and it is as real as the ANC gets as well, because we are now in government and we deserve that spotlight. We must be held to the same accountability. This really is an important point. And then the last thing I would just like to say, Clement, is that if you take the recent Chinese card scandal with Minister Tulashi as an example, there you have a minister who, it seems like, was actively engaged in hiding a gift of 2 cars from Parliament, and who might have even lied about it. Now, accountability is looking into that incident and holding the minister accountable. What Minister Malatsi, Solly Malatsi, and Mr. Soweto Garube did is they found officials in their departments involved in a textbook scandal and involved in fraudulent AI behavior in terms of the document that was created. And what did they do? They held those officials to account. They immediately, when they became aware of it, started accountability processes. It can't be that a minister is I want to say, held accountable for the actions of officials if they themselves are responsible to hold those officials to account. So what I'm trying to say is, hold the ministers, hold DA ministers and ANC ministers accountable for how they handle scandals in their departments, because scandals will always be there. But just be fair and even in how you deal with all ministers.
And really for me, Ayan, is that even when Panyaza Lesufi, for instance, initiated an investigation regarding that fumigation scandal, the DA was still not happy with that. They still said, the buck stops with you. There must be action taken against you as the MEC. Why must there not be action taken against, let's say, Siviwe Kwahube? Whether she has established an investigation or not, that is her department. And I'm saying that is, of course, unfair, because these are not accounting officers. But I'm saying if that's a standard you have been holding throughout against ANC ministers, then that's a standard we must hold against you as well. And I noticed you didn't touch on the scandal involving Dean McPherson. What did you do about that as the DA? And please don't tell me he didn't commit or violate any laws, because that is, of course, without question, ANC ministers, when they took their wives and husbands on trips, The ministerial handbook allowed for it. And in this case, you would argue, but Dean McPherson, the laws allow for him to take the partner. That's not what I'm questioning. What I'm questioning is, as the DA, you've always said it's unnecessary under the current government, the fiscus, to be taking your partners because that increases the cost to the department. Are you okay with the behavior of Dean McPherson?
Yeah, so I mean that is a very important question. I think in times where the country is under financial strain, it is completely understandable that the question is asked is was that a responsible decision to take? The reality is, Clement, and this is not me trying to escape the question, but the reality is that there were no rules or regulations broken. So I mean we've established that. That leaves a minister up to use their own discretion in terms of whether they want to follow, the work within those rules. And Minister McPherson worked within the rules. There was nothing illegal about what he did.
But that's what the ANC did, Jan. When Malusi Gigaba took his wife at the time to New York on a trip, the ministerial handbook allowed for it. He didn't violate any laws. He didn't. And yet you still released a statement and did interviews everywhere and said he has to go. Why, in this case, why with Dean, we must understand that, oh no, he worked within the rules.
Yeah. So to be quite clear, I don't think we are called for his resignation based solely on that fact, but I'm not going to deny that was part of the argument. Here's the reality, Clement. This is the first time we are in government. And we as a party need to also now internally reflect on what are additional policies, ethical standards which we must lay down for our ministers and for our chairpersons that are involved in government. Because it's one thing, and I agree with you, to say that we didn't have a rule for it, so no rule was broken. But I can tell you this: it did generate an internal policy change where we are looking at what is the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Clement, can I just also make an appeal to you? And I know this might sound rich to some listeners, but ministers, and this I can tell you from first-hand knowledge, something which you don't really know unless you are in government, spend an enormous amount of time away from their families. And although the cost is quite extreme when they have to go overseas for business and when a partner goes along, it is also true that they don't really see their partners that much.
That's exactly the same excuse the ANC used at the time. That's exactly the same excuse. Why must we understand it with you now? But you as the DA didn't understand that excuse from the ANC.
Yeah, Clement. I mean, I think it's not really fair to go back in history and say, well, you said this once, so now you're not allowed to change your opinion. You're not allowed to evolve. You're not allowed to relook.
But then you're not taking accountability and you're trying to justify. So if you said to me, Dean was wrong to do what he did, and as a party, we sat him down and we told him, you can never do this again. You are trying to give justifications, and that's why I'm referencing things you have said in the past, because I'm trying to demonstrate the inconsistency to you. So are you saying as the DA, you realize that Dean was wrong for what he's done? And what have you done about it? Because if you have not done anything about it, then you don't recognize it as a mistake.
Look, Clement, I think when it comes to accountability, it really does come down to the rules. Was a rule broken or not? And a rule wasn't broken. So, I mean, we can have the discussions around ethics. That is something which is an interesting thing to talk about. But the reality is, we can't discipline one of our members if he did not break any rules. So that there's no disciplinary action to be taken, and there is no accountability that needs to take place here because a rule was not broken.
Well, I'm reading, the producers have just sent me, what was it, David Mania at the time released a statement and was so unhappy about what Malusi Gigaba had done when he took his wife on a trip. And he said that was not a responsible thing to do, and in fact called for greater efficiency in the use of public funds. And then he said Malusi Gigaba should have set an example when it comes to belt tightening in South Africa. So if the DA can release a statement about that when someone takes their partner on a trip, why can they not be consistent then when it's their own minister? I guess it's what I'm raising here. the inconsistency. It cannot be that the justifications that come from the DA now are fine, but the justifications that came from the ANC at the time were not fine, because you can never point me to anywhere where the ANC, or in fact Malusi Gigaba, let me use him as an example, violated any law. The ministerial handbook allowed for it, the same way that Dean McPherson, the Code of Conduct ministerial handbook, allows for him to take a partner. But in the current fiscus, how do you justify that? It's 11:32. We'll continue this conversation after the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. I'll give Jamie and Brutus an opportunity to respond to Jan, and I'm going to take your calls and WhatsApps as well. So keep them coming. Bali, good morning.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. The state has succeeded in its bid to have the long-running arms deal trial involving former President Jacob Zuma proceed despite any interlocutory applications. The High Court in Pietermaritzburg has ruled that the state and defence must now meet with the court register to finalise trial dates. The state argued that Zuma and his co-accused French arms company Thales have continued to use a strategy to delay the prosecution. The Madlanga Commission of Inquiry has heard testimony of how a crime analytics officer attempted to drive away with 751 kilograms of cocaine before it could get booked as evidence. On the 9th of July in 2021, office-bound SAPS officer Marumo Magane followed up on a tip-off of a truck carrying a large consignment of drugs in the south of Johannesburg. Despite the assignment not falling within his job duties, Magane went to the scene and loaded the drugs onto his bakkie. And the Gauteng Health Department is urging residents in Artridgeville in the east of Pretoria to seek non-emergency help at other healthcare facilities. This comes as the Kalafong Hospital battles with low water pressure. The water woes began after repair work was conducted on a burst pipe near the hospital's railway station. Well, those are the headlines. This EWN and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
If you are coming out of Benoni at this hour, traffic remains slow on the N12 West after Tom Jones, and it is due to an earlier accident. In Johannesburg CBD, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic on the M2 West. This is as you get closer to Main Reef Road. Also look out for faulty traffic lights in Edenvale at the N3 and Modderfontein, in Fourways at Cedar and Fourways Boulevard, as well as in Lone Hill at Main and Lone Hill. In the capital city, traffic lights are also out in Pretoria, north at Paul Kruger and Link, in Noordwijk at the R55 and Summit, as well as in Pretoria CBD at Lillian Goy and Francis Bard. Karabo Jali is up next with your next traffic update from me, Khomotso Munyai. We do it again tomorrow. Have a good afternoon.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. 702 Afternoons with Relebogile Mabodja.
702 Afternoons is about all things in life, from music to inspiration. We get an opportunity to explore science, mental health, food. I almost feel like there's nothing we don't do on my show. One of the things I absolutely love about 702 Land and the 702 family is that we are so sharing. We share tears, laughs, smiles. We share in the amazing times and celebrate together as well. We have a range of topics, but when it comes to what we do cover on the show, absolutely everything. My listener is somebody who wants to grow, evolve, develop. They're empathetic, they are loving, they are so special that even when they don't have, they come through and share, and more importantly, they know how to walk the talk.
702 Afternoons with Relebogile Mabodja. Weekdays from 1 to 3 p.m.
If your internet provider was becoming too expensive, you'd switch, right? So why pay more for car insurance? Switching to Outsurance saves 45-year-old Nivan 461 Rand on his 2025 Volkswagen T-Cross. Get a quote now, and if Outsurance can't save you money, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. Do it now. SMS out to 45142. That's out to 45142. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We are also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct. To give you balanced programming, fair comments, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we are not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission. Email bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more, visit bccsa.co.za.
Behind every powered city is an operation making it possible. Tomorrow, catch this show live from Matla Coal Mine in Kriel in Mpumalanga for the official opening of Exxaro's Mine 1 expansion project. Find out how a 5.2 billion rand investment, a new long-term coal supply agreement with Eskom, and a major mining expansion are helping secure South Africa's energy future for decades to come. This Friday on 702.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
Is the airline breaking even, or are you still losing money?
The business fundamentals are strong and solid, and in that sense, in the long run, you're going to see a sustainably profitable airline.
So for the moment, you're not making money?
Now, for the moment, we are focused on generating cash and preserving cash.
Matshela Sashibe, the CEO at SAA.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Curtis is brought to you by ABSA Business Banking, featuring the AgriTrends 2026 Autumn Edition. In agriculture, smart moves need smart insights. Get the latest AgriTrends report at absaagritrends.co.za. ABSA is a registered FSP.
The Dialogue with Clement Manyathela.
It's not just another roundtable discussion.
Let's walk the talk on 702.
It's going up to 20 minutes before 12 o'clock. We are talking about consistency in our response as members of the public, but also as the media. Do we respond the same to scandals involving DA ministers in comparison to scandals involving ANC ministers? The suggestion by Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi is that there's a lack of consistency there. We are more understanding, he believes, when we are dealing with DA scandals, but we are very much prosecutorial, for lack of a better word, when we're dealing with ANC scandals. I've got Brutus Madlada, who is a political strategist, Jamie Might, who is a researcher, Jan de Villiers, who is the spokesperson for the Democratic Alliance. Let me go to your WhatsApps first, and then I'll bring in Brutus and Jamie for their response. WhatsApps on 072 702 1702 are coming through. Beverly says, "Hi Clement, why aren't you comparing apples with apples? The DA scandals you mentioned don't actually hold up as scandals. Meanwhile, the Panyaza issue involves millions and deserves a proper investigation." Beverly, that's actually quite funny. Here are some WhatsApps on 072 702 and 702.
Hi, Clement. I remember that interview with Gauteng Premier, and that question, it hit hard on me. Yes, the answer is yes. We are definitely treating DA scandal differently from that of the ANC. We are harsher on ANC and less harsher on DA. Sia Sinchura.
Yes, good morning, Clement. The answer to the question whether we are treating the ANC and the DA differently in terms of scandals, absolutely yes. I think that the DA is treated with kid gloves, and the biggest culprit here is, I think, even the media itself, like you, 702, Clement Manyathela. You've got a guy from the DA, but no one from the ANC on this panel, point number one. And most of you 702 presenters are just in the business of decampaigning the ANC. So, yes.
Clement, to be fair on DA, we can't say that is a scandal. You know, always when it's ANC, it's about stealing money. So this thing of AI, to us, it doesn't even make a headline like how most of you are taking it. I'm not taking that serious because it doesn't include stealing of money like what ANC is doing. ANC scandal is always about money. Those people are thieves. They're always stealing.
The Dialogue with Clement Manyathela.
It's not just another roundtable discussion.
Let's walk the talk on 702.
Thank you for your WhatsApps. I'll come to more of them in a moment. But Brutus, you've heard what Jan de Villiers had to say. You've heard what the other listeners say, and maybe it's the what do they say? That's the thing about incumbency, right? People are always going to look back at what does history tell us. And with the African National Congress, there have been many scandals that involved the ANC politicians themselves benefiting, a number of scandals. So when people look at the ANC and there's a scandal that comes up, easily they think, oh my goodness, they're going to steal money here. Whereas with the Democratic Alliance, because there haven't been many scandals that involved multi-million rands of state monies being looted, then maybe that's why they become more lenient. What are your thoughts, and how do you respond to what Jan de Villiers said?
I think what Jan de Villiers has done is to confirm the 3 points that I've made. One, that it was easy being in the opposition, and now they are realizing the difficulties that involves being in government at national level, that the whole system is very elaborate and you would not know some of the things that are happening, even if you are a minister. So they have been holding the ANC ministers accountable, and we appreciate that. But we can't have two standards. We need to have one standard. If you look back at what the DA would have done, even on questions of travel and what they have exposed in the past, you would have expected that there would be questions in parliament, there would be calls for real accountability, there will be statements that are going to be made, but it is one of their own, which takes me to the point about all parties would end up protecting and closing ranks. Now, the DA's hypocrisy comes very, very clear when you listen to what Yanni has been saying. So what the listeners have said, I think it is very clear that we have become numb. So we don't realize the magnitude of even the scandals that we're talking about now that involve DA ministers, because we've been hurt so much. We have been exposed to so much scandal that we don't even realize the veracity of what is being alleged about the DA ministers, because if it doesn't involve billions, it doesn't affect us anymore. And that is the point I was making about the consequence of this. But Clement, we need to make a distinction between what the DA does and what the media does or does about what the DA says. Now, media manufactures content. And how do they do it? They do it by renting a quote, even from agreeable analysts, to weave a particular narrative. Mm-hmm. So you will have a newspaper editor who has a story they want to write, and they've got an angle that they've already decided on. And then they will go and hire a quote from a analyst or someone in authority to just put a statement to legitimize the voice that they want to pursue. So I think the question is whether we have reached a point in which you would know, even before you read a story, that this media house is pro or anti this or the other political party. Mm-hmm. And I think so. So media is a tool at the hands of power to push their agenda. And we've got a history that shows that South Africa is not different. Yeah. So if from Cecil John Rhodes to the height of Afrikanerdom to date, you've got elaborate examples of power trying to buy and control media houses.
Got you, Brutus. Thank you. Jamie, your response?
Yeah, well, I think this also extends to the idea of principles, right? Because part of what is happening is that the principles of the DA are being challenged by the reality of what is playing out. So I think for me, it's almost maybe a challenge to the DA going forward to say, okay, if you look at education, for example, Clement, the DA for a very long period of time used to speak about the real matric pass rate, right? And they would release a statement every year saying that this is the real matric pass rate. And then as soon as Siviwe came into the same position, they then praised the matric results, which were similar, comparable, with the same problems and
Yes.
actually with reductions in number of students writing mathematics, which is one of the STEM subjects which we need to actually fix the unemployment problem, which we also is exacerbating. So I think the challenge would be to the DA to be like, hold your own ministers to account in the same way that you did other ministers from the ANC, even when they are occupying the positions which the other ministers used to. Because if you were critical of NG Musheka, for example, on the issue of the real matric pass rate, you can't change your communications language without necessarily, undermining the very principle that you say you stand for. Do you stand for quality and equal education for all South Africans, or you don't, based on who is in the position? So that would be the first one. The second one would be like, when it came to Jacob Zuma, the DA was very vocal. They wanted to hear about Edward Zuma. They wanted to hear about all of the Zuma family members, and they held Jacob Zuma to account for that. But now you've got new scandals. We've got the Phala Phala impeachment scandal, and it seems as if there isn't unison right now in the Democratic Alliance around how seriously do they take this particular scandal, where at least $800,000 was in a sofa. They have been prevaricating, they have been equivocating, they haven't been speaking with one language. So now we need to ask them, where exactly do you stand on principle as it applies to this? Is it going to be driven by donors? Is it going to be driven by real politics? And why were those types of interests not necessarily consistent under Jacob Zuma? You have to either decide, do you stand on principle as a political party, or do you actually get blown by the winds of political expedience? So that's the challenge to them. They can prove it to us in how they operate in the coming weeks.
Yeah, Jamie Mighty, thank you. Jan de Villiers, let me give you the last word here in response to Jamie and Brutus. Go ahead.
Yes, and I really just want to start by saying I welcome the criticisms that has come from your guests. And yes, it is absolutely important that the DA is also held accountable and that we are held to the same standards and the same principles which we have always said we stand by. So, the DA has no problem with that. You should hold us accountable. And I just want to say I do think that the Phala Phala case and the impeachment committee that's going to be formed now, and the way in which our members conduct themselves in that committee, and also the decision that committee makes, and then obviously what happens afterwards, should be 100%, I agree with the last speaker, should be one of the most important examples of how the DA is judged according to principle, according to how we hold people accountable, because accountability starts with the highest office in the land. It does start with the president. Yeah. And what our leader, Jordan Hill-Lewis, has said, and what we will stand by, is we will follow the facts, we will follow the law, and we will follow the process as set out by the Constitution, and that will now unfold in Parliament, and that we will not be influenced in any way in our decision making or pre-decide what we are going to do or what we are going to decide. And Clement, I just want to say, as an example, the hard questions which you've asked me about Dean McPherson, the way in which this whole debate has unfolded, to me is evidence of the fact that in South Africa, our media holds the DA to a very high standard. And I really do experience this as a national spokesperson every single day. I never experience sweetheart treatment or kid gloves. We get asked the hard questions, and we should be asked the hard questions.
Yeah, true. And thank you, Jan de Villiers, for also subjecting yourself and allowing yourself to be part of conversations like this, because believe it or not, there are politicians who get scared or will tell you they don't want to engage in a conversation because they think they don't want to be held accountable. So I appreciate you making time for us. Jan de Villiers is a DA spokesperson. 9 minutes now before 12 o'clock.
702.
The Clement Manyathela Show.
Let's walk the talk.
All right, so I want us to reflect on something quickly before we wrap up the show, because on the open line, this was a subject of much debate. This tension that seems to exist between the communications minister, Solly Malatsi, and, of course, the ICASA, the regulator. And this is regarding, remember we spoke about equity, equivalence, we spoke about what the regulations are, and the minister's intention to amend the act to allow for equity equivalence even in the ICT sector. So on the line, I've got Motibi Ramusi, who is the chairperson of ICASA, joining us just so we close this loop, which we started on the open line. Mr. Ramusi, thank you for making time. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Tobela. Thank you very much for the opportunity, Clement.
What is happening between ICASA and the minister? It seems like you guys are talking past each other. The minister issued a directive in December. You issued a statement. The minister then said something about amending the act. You've come out to say, well, even that directive that he issued in December, you can't really follow through on it because that would require the amendment to the legislation. What's the status of the relationship between ICASA and the minister now?
Yeah, thanks very much, Clement, and good morning to the listeners as well. No, the relationship is good, Clement. I think we're dealing with a situation where, as you know, in our environment as a regulator and a policymaker, having observed the trends that are changing daily, there's always a need to go back to our founding documents, in this case, our Electronic Communication Act, look at it, whether it still talks to what is happening currently in terms of governance, licensing, etc. So in our case, you might have seen that there's been obviously a proposal for the authority to consider a new method, which will then require you as an applicant to be considered through what one would call an equity equivalent program. Now, the EIIP, it's a model that we have not used as an authority. Currently, we are guided by the Electronic Communication Act, which stipulates that any person who's got an appetite in the telecommunication sector, you'll be subjected to a 30% HDG ownership. So meaning in your structure, you need to have that reflection in your operational company. Now, in this instance, obviously, because we've noted that there are methods in South Africa where companies, multinationals have been recognized as one of those that can provide and create jobs in the country. But the unfortunate part currently is that the equity equivalent has, in our sector, which one would say it's an ICT, was used for companies that one will define them as original equipment manufacturers, whether it's those that are selling products, either hardware or software. But with ICASA, because we're dealing with people that are providing or entities that are providing services, the Act is very clear in terms of the requirements. So I think for the benefit of the listeners and yourself is to say that OEMs are providers of products, and we deal with those that are providing a service. And if one wants to do that, there is a stipulated process to follow. And I think this is how we and the minister, we've been engaging. And I'm quite encouraged because you might have even read his speech on the budget vote speech, recognition that perhaps there's a need to amend our legislative framework if you want to introduce a new KPI.
But that's what you guys have always said, though. So where was the tension then? Because even when he issued that directive to say, please consider aligning the 30% ownership rule that in the ITC sector code as per the BBBEE Act and the code issued in terms of the BBBEE Act, you said, but that would require amendment. But it seems he still wanted you to align and ensure conformity with the legislation.
Yeah, I think, Clement, I would take it that, the ECA, as you know, as a prescript, the owner of that document is the minister. So obviously, if you have a document and you are of the view that my document addresses what I would intend doing, perhaps you may want just to go and test that. But as an independent institution, yes, you're quite right. We have noted that the only best way to introduce any method is to amend the founding document, which I've indicated, which is the ECA. But as I said, we are noting that the minister has acknowledged that there's definitely perhaps a process for him to consider amending the legislation. Noting that this legislation, Clement, we're dealing with an ECA that is almost 20 years plus, and trends have moved. I mean, there are other vertical sectors that are emerging, and what it requires us to do as a collective through the portfolio committee as well is to then go back to the drawing board and say, how relevant is our ECA in today's world? Because there are certain parameters in the Act that requires a review so that we can start looking at introducing new other technologies. We're talking about satellites in this case. We are busy now with a licensing framework just to make sure that those that are bringing new technologies will find South Africa being ready to accommodate them. And I think that's the kind of a proactive regulatory intervention that we're doing as an authority.
All right. Mutibi Ramusi, thank you so much for coming through. That's the chairperson.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the panel. Thank you.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
Rick Freyland asked, what are you so afraid of with Trump and Elon Musk? It is their power and how they think about people that look like me. That's what I'm afraid of. The history books are full of the atrocities committed against people that look like me by people who look like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, who had immeasurable power. The millions of people who were killed in the Congo by King Leopold of Belgium, the atrocities of Atlantic slave trade. For those that were not the victims of that abuse of power, it is a matter of get on with it, move on.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
Let's hear from Al, owner of Johnson's Cable, why it pays to switch to OUTsurance Business Insurance.
I thought it was going to be difficult to switch to OUTsurance Business Insurance. Switching was so quick and easy. I'm happy with the premium that I'm paying now.
For electrical, tradesman services, and all other businesses, get a quote today and see why it pays to switch to OUTsurance Business Insurance. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
There are moments that don't look significant at first until everything changes because of them. Shift Happens with Richard Sutton, a new podcast exploring real stories of challenge, doubt, and turning points. Because growth doesn't arrive when everything is clear. It arrives when nothing is. Coming soon on primemediaplus.com, the Prime Media Plus app, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Powered by First Light, therapeutics for the modern mind.
Clement is on X.
At The Real Clement M.
All right, it's a minute now before 12 o'clock. Up next is the Midday Report with Mandy Winner. She's going to tell us what's coming up on her show. How are you, Mandy? Are you okay?
You made me run down the stairs. Never run into a radio studio.
Why?
Because then you can't breathe. That's the rule. First rule of radio.
What's popping today?
So the NPA has won its case with Jacob Zuma to essentially force him to go ahead with the arms deal trial. This has been going on for 20 years, so thank goodness. The legality of Nandipa Magudumana's extradition is before the Concourt today. It's the final day for public comment on the new whistleblower legislation, so we'll speak to some whistleblower groups about that. The Gauteng Finance MEC is unpacking the province's finances today. And our book of the week is a new one from forensic pathologist Ryan Blumenthal called Trace.
That's what's coming up on the Midday Report with Mandy Winner. Thank you for listening to the show. Stay listening to 703 throughout the day, 702. I'll be back with you tomorrow between 9 and 12. We're live from Kriel in Mpumalanga tomorrow. Looking forward to it. Have a beautiful day, friends. Bye-bye.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon. I'm Vali Dlamini. The corruption trial of former President Jacob Zuma and French arms company Thales will sit from the 1st of February